Chapter 1, Mysterious Space. The Yiyuan School, situated on top of the Qingfeng Mountain, stretching in extreme length. It was now the midsummer season. In the sky, the sun slowly fell down, the setting sun drawing a long shadow. On the lakeside of one not very large, small lake, Satan, around 17 or 18-year-old black-clothed teenager, grabbed a block of stone from the lakeside and threw it out, immediately making several splashes in the lake. Yi Shiwen was somewhat at a loss. He didn't expect he suddenly crossed through. Originally, Yi Shiwen was in 21st century Earth and previously was only an ordinary university student. A month before, he finally accepted the fact that he crossed through. As a matter of fact, it was not someone pranking him, rather he really crossed through. Being in this world for already over a month, he was slowly able to accept the fact that here was not Earth. Even though the local conditions and customs here resembled ancient China, he knew that here was not Earth, but was the Zhen Wujie world. This was a martial world, martial arts spawning countless years of history. In this world, martial arts spawned splendid civilizations. Formidable warrior practitioners reaching the apex can move mountains and drain seas, cut into mountains and split rock. Even lifespan was prolonged indefinitely. Yi Shiwen's identity now was the Yiyuan School elder's third son, but also an adopted son that the father, Yi Kongming, came back with 18 years ago. Inside the school, this was not regarded as a secret. The Yiyuan School was one of the Du country's most rich and powerful large sects, as said by experts. But, located on top of the Qingfeng Mountain, was only one of the Yiyuan School's branches amongst the Du country's Yiyuan schools. Those resembling the Yiyuan School's branches were many, specialized to transport talents to Yiyuan School's head school. Yi Shiwen's cultivation was only at the Houtian third stage. At his age, this cultivation could only be considered ordinary. In Zhen Wujie, warriors stepping into martial arts begin at the Houtian first stage, continuously climbing until the Houtian ninth stage. As for above Houtian, it's Xiantian. As for how Xiantian was divided, Yi Shiwen just did not know. After all, the Yiyuan School's schoolmaster's ability was at the Xiantian domain level. The Yiyuan School altogether was divided into the outer sect, the inner sect. Finally, the core's third level was the core disciple level. The core disciple level afterwards were able to leave for the Yiyuan School's head school to participate in an examination to enter the head school. The level of the Yiyuan School's disciples wasn't really divided according to age, rather it was divided according to the strength of the Houtian 9 mortal body domains. After cultivating to the domain level of the third stage, then you would be able to ascend to the inner sect from the outer sect. After cultivating to the fifth stage, then you were able to promote to the core. And if you wanted to participate in the Yiyuan School's main school's examination, the minimum requirement was the seventh stage. The requirement can't be not high. Yi Shiwen's predecessor's aptitude was average. This year he was 18 years old, but his cultivation was just recently practiced to the late third stage. This kind of achievement, although not regarded as strange, can only merely be considered ordinary. Yi Shiwen, inside the Yiyuan inner sect, was merely one very ordinary disciple among inner sect disciples. Though unlike respected core disciples, but also not resembling the generally low-status outer sect disciples. Plus his father was the Yiyuan School's elder, thus he was still usually regarded as not bad. Only he did not receive too much attention. Yi Shiwen's predecessor's aptitude was too ordinary. The Houtian late third stage within inner sect disciples could only be considered intermediate, especially compared with his two elder siblings. Even more so, his eldest brother, Yi Feng, was only 21 years old this year and was already at the Houtian peak 8th stage. Inside the school, he was super talented. And his elder sister, Yi Ruxue, was only a year older than him and had also already reached the Houtian 7th stage. In such a case, he certainly did not attract attention. Sha-sha. Behind Yi Shiwen came a rustling sound in the woods. A fatty, 17 or 18-year-old silk-clothed man jumped out from behind the bushes. Yi Shiwen's face exposed a bit of a smile. This man was called Wang Lai. He was a great close friend from childhood. His home was a rich household below the Qingfeng Mountain in the town of Qingfeng and had a very close relationship with the Yiyuan School. Ever since Wang Lai was young, he was sent up the mountain for training. The two's relationship was superb. Naturally, the two's talents were the same. Yi Shiwen was at the late third stage. Wang Lai, compared to Yi Shiwen, was stronger at the peak third stage. This was a reason the two have been very close. It is already evening, you did not go back to rest. What did you come here to do? Yi Shiwen asked with a smile. It's not being worried about you? Wang Lai said smilingly. You were always acting strange lately, in real odd and weird ways. Rest assured, nothing is the matter. Yi Shiwen said. Nothing more than adapting from crossing over from Earth. You are at the critical time of breaking through to the fourth stage, and still not behind closed doors? Yi Shiwen said. Hotian third stage can only be considered ordinary within the inner sect disciples, but Hotian fourth stage were the elite in the inner sect's disciples. Even if it was only a difference of one stage, the status was as different as heaven and earth. Hey, I came to try to find you just for this matter. I plan to go behind closed doors, probably for a long time. But recently you have been acting in really odd and weird ways. I'm a little worried. Wang Jie looked somewhat anxious and said to Yi Shiwen. He grew up with Yi Shiwen since childhood. Although the two were always boisterous and frivolous, he was actually very concerned about his brother, and, of course, he never imagined that his brother had already been substituted. Go rest assured, what matter can I have? Yi Shiwen laughed. It's getting late. You go back first, I'll sit for a moment then go. Good, do not be late, take care not to come across demon beasts. Wang Lai urged. The Yiyuan school was situated on the Qingfeng mountain. Amongst the mountain were some very fierce demon beasts. These demon beasts all possessed the magical power of terrible beasts. Compared with ordinary beasts they were much stronger, only warriors had the ability to equal them. And I know. Yi Shiwen nodded. Although he said that here in the Yiyuan school's local vicinity were no demon beasts. But it was also a troublesome thing in the case a formidable demon beast ran out and did not play by the rules, and he'd be crying and weeping without a place to go. The demon beasts on this mountain were too many. He also had no alternative but to protect himself. The reason why the Yiyuan school was situated on such a mountain was to intimidate the mountain's many demon beasts in order to avoid the demon beasts from descending the mountain to disturb the people. Although it was impossible to block all demon beasts, always one or two escaped the net. But the bottom of the mountain also had a dojo to practice martial arts to build up one's strength, and the warriors were also many, thus, it didn't matter. Because of this relationship, the Yiyuan school's disciples on the outside always received respect. Within 25 kilometers in this regard, wherever they walked they were respected at a glance. Wang Lai finished speaking, then turned around to depart. Although his build was plump, he was a martial artist after all. Moving gracefully, he rapidly disappeared into the thickets. Yi Shiwen sat for a moment, just on the verge of leaving when he suddenly caught a glimpse of the lake. Multicolored light rays burst crazily, covering the lake for a split second, once more immediately recovering its tranquility. Yi Shiwen was very doubting. How were multicolored rays possible? Could it be that some strange treasure was inside? Thinking here, Yi Shiwen stood up somewhat excited. In the case that there was some strange treasure, then he would truly flourish. After deciding, Yi Shiwen abruptly dived into the water, submerging unceasingly. Regardless of his previous life or this life, Yi Shiwen's swimming ability was very good. Yi Shiwen slowly submerged, slowly approaching the center of the lake. This was actually a very ordinary lake. No demon beasts existed within the water. In such a location, the Yiyuan school's experts had already eradicated them, therefore Yi Shiwen was not worried about coming across any dangerous demon beasts. Yi Shiwen opened his eyes to look, just seeing a small, multicolored ball of light laying calming inside the center of the lake. Yes, that's right. Yi Shiwen felt it laying there. Yi Shiwen did not feel any danger, only thinking that it was very gentle. Immediately slowly diving, coming to its side. Yi Shiwen extended his hand, grabbing the ball of multicolored rays of light. Suddenly, the multicolored light rays issued a fierce, bright light, instantly leaping inside Yi Shiwen's body afterwards. Yi Shiwen was alarmed. Looking again, he saw that the multicolored ball of light at the center of the lake had already vanished. Yi Shiwen promptly surfaced, swimming to the shore, repeatedly gasping for air. Furthermore, still in somewhat of a panicked state. Inspecting his whole body, he discovered it was not short of anything, easing him down. He used Jin Qi to evaporate droplets of water. Just about to go back, Yi Shiwen suddenly discovered that a piece of dusky, special space appeared inside his mind. This was a very strange situation. Obviously only in the Xiantian domain level can one look inside, looking at every vein in your own body. But it so happens that Yi Shiwen was able to sense the very mysterious space within his mind. Yi Shiwen found that as long as he held his breath, he could feel the presence of such a space. Yi Shiwen thought it was all too strange. Also not daring to stay in this lake, he dashed all the way back at once, returning to the inside of his small courtyard. So much as without the time to greet his parents. Qingfeng Mountain was incomparably vast, and the area the Yiyuan school covered was also unusually wide. Not much else but many houses. In addition, Yi Kongming was also an elder inside the Yiyuan school, a high position of power. Yi Shiwen, after growing into adulthood, was separated to living in the small courtyard close to his parents' home. Yi Shiwen, still in a panicked state, returned inside his home. At this time, the sky was already pitch black. Yi Shiwen held his breath, completely concentrating his attention. Immediately, that special space appeared in Yi Shiwen's mind yet again. Yi Shiwen, not as usual, did not relax his mind, rather he continued to hold his breath. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen saw black before his eyes, abruptly appearing inside a piece of chaos. Yi Shiwen was immediately with great alarm, but he reacted quickly. Here was not an other place, rather it was the piece of space inside his mind. In this period of time, he had seen it many times, so he quickly recognized it. It should be unlikely that he entirely came in, possibly a portion of his soul came in. But for what the use this space was he currently did not know. But soon, Yi Shiwen quickly discovered a problem. He could not get out. There was simply no exit. No matter how he walked, in the midst of chaos, the surrounding landscape was also exactly the same. Chapter 2 Hotian 4th Stage. Minutes and seconds passed. Yi Shiwen also abandoned the notion of going out, immediately somewhat discouraged. Should he not be able to cross over then, he would be trapped here for a lifetime. Though Yi Shiwen had not thought he was one to dominate the world, exceptional and peerless and so on. That was a twisted fiction, nothing more. His first thought was to protect himself, then he would go back with shame. He did not want to be trapped here for a lifetime. Again a long time passed. Yi Shiwen was really very much bored. Without anything better to do, he began to practice his internal power. This world's martial power was divided into two parts, martial arts and internal power. He was now only at the Hotian 3rd stage, still not yet the 4th stage. And in accordance with the school's rules within, those before the 4th stage weren't permitted to cultivate martial arts. The reason was very simple. Martial arts cultivation in internal power was fundamental. In this life, there were no achievements without internal power, and before the 3rd stage was the stage of laying foundations. He discovered that, apart from being trapped in here, the time and everything else was exactly the same as outside. In any case, only by maintaining his status quo, cultivating his internal power would he enhance his strength, not wasting his time in vain. He was now cultivating the set of power techniques called Bright Jade Power, divided into 10 layers altogether. Within the school, few were capable of cultivating all the way to the Xiantian domain level with internal power, but thanks to the status of Elder Yi Kongming, Yi Shiwen had the ability to cultivate these set of power techniques. These set of power techniques was unusually gentle, the most gentle. He suddenly discovered that the insights of the Bright Jade Power unexpectedly continuously surged into his mind. If the previous speed of insights flowed at the speed of a small stream, then the speed of Yi Shiwen's insights now was absolutely the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers, continuously surging. Endless insights filled Yi Shiwen as if he were drunk and stupefied from handling the Zhenqi over and over from cultivating the Bright Jade Power. Not knowing how long passed until Hong! Yi Shiwen abruptly awakened, opening his eyes and finding himself surprisingly appearing inside his room and not in that chaotic space. The sky outside was already at the first glimmer of light. Yi Shiwen started letting out a cold sweat. What, that space just now only dreamland? But the insights inside the chaotic space were extremely distinct. It was not likely fake. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen discovered, on his skinny body soaked in sweat, some black impurities covered him all over. These were the hidden body's impurities. The Hotian ninth stage, each breakthrough, would discharge some impurities until it's been cleanly eliminated. After emptying it out of the body, it's possible to access the governing vessel meridian, going from Hotian to Xiantian. This was the phenomenon of breaking through one stage. How can this be? Yi Shiwen was endlessly shocked. Assessing himself, the case of him breaking through to the Hotian fourth stage needed about less than half a year, at the very least. But in the period of a night spent in the chaos, he surprising already practiced to the fourth stage. It was no wonder, according to the predecessor's memories, even if the ordinary bright jade power was practiced, it was difficult to have a bit of insight. But just in the time of practicing bright jade power, inside the space, great amounts of insights and information rushed forth into his mind. In reality, the rate was deduced to be far more than 100 times faster. If this was the case, with the assistance of this special space, learning any martial arts was no longer secret in Yi Shiwen's eyes. By practicing inside this special space, Yi Shiwen was able to very quickly grasp the essence of learning martial arts. Yi Shiwen blasted his fist outwards, immediately shaking the air, rupturing and vibrating it. Power wandered in his body. The power of the whole body was no longer dispersed in the body like the past, rather twisted into a gene. Compared with before, it simply couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Amongst the Hotian 9 domains, first stage warriors blast a punch of 25 kilograms, second stage was 50 kilograms, the third stage was 100 kilograms, and breaking through to the fourth stage, they can raise 250 kilograms in one breath. Hotian fourth stage was the first divide in the water. After reaching the Hotian fourth stage, their strength reached 250 kilograms. That was the power of a fierce tiger, extremely bold and powerful. Sect disciples within the Yuan school were not restricted in cultivating any kind of power technique at all because the power techniques inside the Yuan school, in itself, were extraordinarily many. Each disciple can find a power technique that suits them. Even obtaining outside power techniques were not prohibited. Instead, thinking that it's only the disciple's lucky chance. More importantly, after his mortal body passed through that multicolored brilliance and transformed, his meridians expanded a countless numbers of time. If Yi Shiwen's meridians before were a small creek, then after transforming, the meridians were the Yangtze and Yellow rivers, the Zhenqi endlessly rushing within. Like this, Yi Shiwen's single day of cultivation was above other people's result of many days of cultivation. The might of ordinary power techniques and the amount of Zhenqi send out in a split second also had a direct relationship. Yi Shiwen's meridians were much wider than an average person. The same moves in Yi Shiwen's hands were much more powerful than other people. Yi Shiwen's strength now directly broke through to 285 kilograms. Yi Shiwen suddenly rejoiced. With the assistance of this special space, he could possibly rise above others, becoming outstanding. Thinking here, Yi Shiwen tarried no longer, forthwith placing a piece of quartzite and sitting down cross-legged. Holding his breath, sure enough, that mysterious space appeared once more, but this time, no matter how Yi Shiwen completely concentrated his attention, he could not go into that space. Yi Shiwen was somewhat baffled. How could this be? He could enter a moment ago and now he can no longer enter. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen discovered his body's Zhenqi was unexpectedly completely cleanly consumed, nowhere to be seen. Suddenly with great alarm, just now his Zhenqi was still full, how could it abruptly disappear? I understand. Yi Shiwen suddenly said. He immediately thought that he practice power techniques inside this space, you had to consume Zhenqi or energy. This was the only way to explain why he could not enter that space now, but also how he suddenly came out of that space just now. It's precisely because of its relationship with exhausting Zhenqi. Inside the courtyard, Yi Shiwen took out all his belongings. 10 low-grade spirit stones, which were all of Yi Shiwen's belongings. These crystals in this world were known as spirit stones. Every piece of spirit stone contained a considerably strong spiritual qi. Divided into low-grade spirit stones, mid-grade spirit stones, high-grade spirit stones and top-grade spirit stones. Warriors could absorb spirit stones into spiritual qi to cultivate. It can also replenish your Zhen qi for a short time. If this space to deduce power techniques indeed expends energy, then using spirit stones was also possible. Yi Shiwen absorbed the spirit stones into spiritual qi, successfully transforming into his Zhen qi, holding his breath afterwards. That single special space appeared once again. Yi Shiwen continued to hold his breath. Sure enough, like Yi Shiwen thought, he entered that space in one move. Chapter 3, Library Pavilion. However, the difference was that last time, Yi Shiwen's whole spirit entered into that space. He completely could not feel his body's state. But now he could simultaneously sense his outside body's state. The feeling was like two hearts and souls, the two simultaneously the same. Yi Shiwen also did not waste time, forthwith exercising control inside the special space via telepathy to cultivate bright jade power. Immediately, countless information suddenly swarmed his mind. In reality, his cultivation was breaking through again and again. Yi Shiwen immediately exulted. Apparently, his guess was not wrong. Yi Shiwen stopped, coming out from inside that mysterious space, putting aside the cultivation of bright jade power. There was now an important thing that needed to be done. This was choosing a martial art. A warrior, if not having learned a martial art, how would they be regarded as a warrior? Especially when fighting with enemies, not learning martial arts simply won't do. Those only having internal power and not martial art can only end up being oppressed by people. The sky was already bright. Yi Shiwen freshened himself up, leaving from inside his parents' courtyard to eat breakfast. This was the Yi family's custom. Even if the Yi family's 3 children already grown into adults and moved out. It's no problem even if you are not at home. The family's 3 meals are inevitably eaten together. Yi Shiwen arrived. His parents and elder siblings were already present, waiting for him. Last night you did not come to eat dinner. Where have you been? Yi Kongming asked. Yi Kongming's appearance was a solemn and respectful middle-aged man. This child went to cultivate. Naturally, Yi Shiwen did not dare to expose the matter of the mysterious space. I must tell father the good news. A strange look flashed through Yi Kongming's eyes, asking, what good news? Yes, quickly speak little brother, what good news? Yi Shiwen's elder sister, Yi Rushue asked hastily. She was born with a baby face. Although already over 20 years old, she was like a 15 or 16-year-old, looking younger than Yi Shiwen. The elder brother, Yi Feng, hearing that, also turned to look towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Feng's features strikingly resembled Yi Kongming, as if a younger version of Yi Kongming. Accompanied by smart-looking white garments, he looked incomparably natural and unrestrained. The 3 brothers and sisters differed not much in age. Growing up together since childhood, their affection for each other are superb. Yi Shiwen's mother, Xia Chuanxue, although already over 40 years old, bringing up children for many years, plus equipped with martial power, in the face of techniques, it would appear that she was only in her early 20s. Merely looking at her family with a smile. Even if Yi Shiwen was only an adopted son, in her heart, they didn't differ in any from parent and child. I want to learn a martial art. Yi Shiwen uttered with a smile. Learning a martial art, you broke through to the 4th stage? Yi Kongming blankly stared, then reacted and said. Sweeping Yi Shiwen with a glance again, he suddenly understood. Not bad. Yi Kongming did not think anything of it. After all, Yi Shiwen was originally at the late 3rd stage in strength. Breaking through to the 4th stage now was nothing strange. Only, it had absolutely not occurred to him that Yi Shiwen broke through from the late 3rd stage to the 4th stage overnight. Xia Chuanxue also smiled and nodded. Although he merely broke through from the Hotian 3rd stage to the Hotian 4th stage, every bit of Yi Shiwen's progress made her very happy. The whole family was very happy, also not thinking anything of it because both Yi Feng and Yi Rushue's speed of breaking through was much faster than Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's breakthrough was very normal at this time. Wait a moment to eat. I think this child should go to the library pavilion to choose a martial art. Yi Shiwen said with a smile. According to the Iyuan school's rules, after breaking through to the Hotian 4th stage, then can you advance to the library pavilion to choose one martial art book. But only the primary martial arts. The selection of martial arts was free, and only this first time. Afterward, in the case you still wanted to learn any martial powers, then you must exchange credits. All school sects possess these credits, generally with a variety of contributions or heavenly material treasures to exchange. Go ahead, but you must choose this martial art well. Now you are still at the stage of laying foundations. It is impossible to choose too many martial arts. So, for a very long period of time, you will use this sect's martial arts. Yi Kongming stated, learning to practice a sect's martial arts from beginning to end to the culmination will take an average person a little over 10 years. Even if only primary martial arts, even a genius would also need a year or two. Yi Kongming's meaning of biting off more than one can chew in practicing the sect's martial arts to the culmination should not be underestimated. If you haven't cultivated to the peak by learning unceasingly, ultimately you are only biting off more than you can chew. Everything would be all loose. Yi Shiwen nodded and said, "This child knows." Yi Shiwen knew Yi Kongming's experienced words of planning were for his own good. Regarding the reason of biting off more than he can chew, he also knew. This child has one more thing to say. Yi Shiwen asked. Speak. Yi Kongming floated a smile on his face. Yi Shiwen broke through. He was very glad in his heart. The next time, this child wants to enter the back of the Qingfeng mountain to cultivate to consolidate my domain levels as soon as possible, but also to temper martial art. Yi Shiwen declared. Yi Shiwen wanted to cultivate internal power at a quiet place. However, with martial arts, he still had to fight to be able to understand its essence to improve at a flying speed. Let alone, in the event that he wanted to use that mysterious space to cultivate, like that, no other people could see. Okay. Yi Kongming nodded. Even if he was somewhat worried, Yi Feng and Xie Rushue broke through the 4th stage at that time, also entering into the Qingfeng mountain to cultivate. At that time, their age was much lower than Yi Shiwen. After eating breakfast, the sky was already completely bright. Yi Shiwen left to go inside the Iyuan school's library pavilion alone. The library pavilion was one of the Iyuan school's most important places because these secret books represent what was inherited in the Iyuan school. The Iyuan school was able to tower over Qingfeng Mountain for several hundred years, all by relying on these secret books in order to ensure the Iyuan school's unending inheritance. It was still early when Yi Shiwen arrived at the library pavilion, and as usual, the doorway of the library pavilion only had one elderly jade-clothed man reclining in a rocking chair, reading an old, yellowing book very leisurely. Yi Shiwen's predecessor often came into the library pavilion before. Not only did the library pavilion have secret books, inside the library pavilion's first floor were some of each country's geographical records, news of marvelous secrets and the like. There were every kind of books, which included countless relations to cultivation. The irrelevant content, Yi Shiwen's predecessor frequently came here to borrow books in this aspect. These many years later, Yi Shiwen was well-read. Many of the previous generation's warriors estimated that what they knew was much more inferior to Yi Shiwen. When Yi Shiwen crossed over, in order to fully understand this world's state of affairs as quickly as possible, he came here a bit. Therefore, right here was also not unfamiliar. Chapter 4. Choosing a power technique. The second floor and above was pertaining to martial study. The library pavilion was altogether divided into 5 floors. Inside the first floor were some light reading books. Inside the second floor were some primary power techniques. Inside the third floor was intermediate power techniques. Inside the fourth floor was advanced power techniques. And put inside the fifth floor were the Iyuan school's few number of Xiantian level power techniques. Over all these years, Yi Shiwen did not know what the name of the other person was. Everyone only called him Old Emo. Although he did not know his identity, it was assumed that he was a senior inside the Iyuan school. Therefore, every time Yi Shiwen saw him, he was very respectful. Did youngster Yi come? What book did you come to read? Classic history or geography? Old Emo put down the book, saying with a completely kindly smile. His impression of Yi Shiwen was very good. Not only modest and polite, but more importantly the people wishing to calm their mind by reading were very few nowadays. The younger generations seem to be very fickle and impatient. Old Mo, I am here today to borrow a martial arts type of book, Yi Shiwen declared. Martial arts? Old Mo's eyes flashed an indescribable radiance. You crossed to the 4th stage? Not bad, huh? Old Mo laughed heartily without restraint, truly treating Yi Shiwen as a nephew. Since you are to choose a power technique, you just must not be greedy for more training, it is vital for your own good, Old Mo said. Although, he would say that to every disciple who came here to choose secret books. With Yi Shiwen, he was actually exceptionally serious. Many young people starting always wanted to learn this and that, unable to pay attention. Even some people believe themselves to have absolute natural gifts, totally able to learn. The outcome of the final results could only be like painting a tiger from a dog, barely learning in a superficial way. In that case, it was instead not equal to those people only specializing in one of the sect's martial arts. Many thanks for Old Mo's reminder, this youngster will certainly keep it in mind. Yi Shiwen believed Old Mo's words to be deep and bowed deeply to express thanks. Training by reading a book was not like reaching heaven in a single bound. When reading books before, Yi Shiwen pursued to finish reading a book then pass on to start reading another book. In this case, the same was surely possible to finish reading a lot of books in this time. But Yi Shiwen was much more transparent those people learning many books at the same time. Well, this old man won't say anymore. Go in and take a look. Old Mo waved his hand, laying on the rocking chair, looking at the book again. Although he came up with no difficulty, he knew that this membrane was an ingenious installation. Those having the Hotian 4th stage or higher would not be unimpeded. Those without the strength of the Hotian 4th stage could not go up. Yi Shiwen was very interested in the rushing thunder hand. Hence, and he quickly found the rushing thunder hand. Looking up, the rushing thunder hand's greatest characteristic was its unbreakable speed. Yi Shiwen already selected. Opening the rushing thunder hand's secret book and memorizing the contents. The secret books are not to be taken out of here, but you could copy it. Yi Shiwen did not bring over a pen and paper, so memorizing was also permitted. Anyways, copying the secret books back to back, as a result, many people simply chose to go back after that. Then in less than half an hour, Yi Shiwen memorized the secret book. After that, putting down the rushing thunder hand's secret book, he didn't continue to read, rather directly going down the stairs, out the library pavilion as well. Old Mo was still leisurely looking at the ancient book. Seeing Yi Shiwen come out, he smiled and said, "Chose well?" Yi Shiwen nodded and spoke. This youngster chose the rushing thunder hand. Rushing thunder hand? That secret book is pretty good. Old Mo said, that secret book's might is also pretty good. Only it is a palm technique secret book. You have to find an opportunity to choose a weaponry secret book or when fighting with people, you will lose. Yi Shiwen nodded. If you want to specialize cultivating other palm techniques or fist techniques and the like, at the very least cultivate the rushing thunder hand to 6 echoes or higher. A variety of martial arts are not equal to a specialized one. The truth of biting off more than you can chew I think you know. Many thanks for directing me, Old Mo, Yi Shiwen said. Please excuse this youngster. Go. Old Mo looked at Yi Shiwen and declared. Immediately proceeding to look his yellowing ancient book again, laying on the rocking chair with a relaxed appearance just like before. Yi Shiwen knew he was always like that. Also not minding, he turned around then went back to his courtyard. Chapter 5, Rushing Thunder 9 Echoes in the courtyard, Yi Shiwen took out all his possessions. 10 low-grade spirit stones. These were all of Yi Shiwen's possessions. After absorbing the spirit stones into spiritual qi, it transformed into Zhen qi. Then holding his breath, that single special space emerged once again. Yi Shiwen continued to hold his breath. Really like Yi Shiwen thought he would, he went into that space in one fell swoop. Yi Shiwen also did not waste time, straight away beginning to telepathically control the special space to deduce the rushing thunder hand's essence. Suddenly, a myriad of information immediately surged into his mind. Yi Shiwen immediately felt joy, It seemed that his guess was not incorrect. Not only could internal power be practiced, even martial arts was no exception. Deconstructing the rushing thunder hand's essence over and over again absent-mindedly was similar to moving clouds and flowing water, coming and going in the mind. Yi Shiwen began to practice the rushing thunder hand. The rushing thunder hand had pass like thunder and move like the wind, lightning and thunder, ghostly thunder axe, and the leveling storm 4 strokes. Although there were a small number of moves, it was easy to learn but difficult to master. It was very difficult to practice to the peak. Hong long long. Yi Shiwen shot his palms out, very quickly practicing the whole rushing thunder hand one time. Yi Shiwen issued the rushing thunder hand over and over, suddenly finding insights regarding the rushing thunder hand surprisingly welling up in his mind. If his insight speed previously was at the speed of a small stream, then Yi Shiwen's speed of insights now were absolutely like the Yangtze and Yellow River, gushing ceaselessly. Hong long, Hong long, Hong long. Not knowing how long had passed, Yi Shiwen sent out each palm, even with a somewhat faint sound of thunder. Clearly, the rushing thunder hand had already been practiced to an extent to visibly appear. Pass like thunder and move like the wind. Yi Shiwen lightly shouted. The right hand seemed like it sent out lightning, producing an almost muffled sound as the palm hit the block of hard quartzite. Suddenly, that quartzite suddenly scattered from the hit, so much that more than half of it directly changed into a fine powder. Yi Shiwen looked at both of his hands, saying somewhat incredibly, I did not expect to deduce just a small part of the rushing thunder hand's essence. Actually able to issue the second echo. Continuing to deduce it, it's hard to say if I might really be able to issue 9 echoes in a month. He knew this set of rushing thunder hand was easy to learn but difficult to master. But in this short time, by relying on the understanding of the special space, he actually successfully broke through to the extent of the second echo. The rushing thunder hand was easy to learn but difficult to master. Generally, cultivating it to issue the second echo would take more than a year for experienced people. To go as far as issuing out the 9th echo, many people practicing for a lifetime could not achieve this. A crackling and rattling sound came from Yi Shiwen's body. From Yi Shiwen's body, a few black impurities, along with sweat, gradually discharged from his body. His mortal body was even more pure. Yi Shiwen discovered, along with breaking the rushing thunder hand through to the second echo, his own strength even increased. Yi Shiwen immediately delighted, throwing out a punch, striking the air with an exploding crackle and rattle. His strength, from the original 285 kilograms, actually broke through to 315 kilograms. An increase of a full 30 kilograms. He didn't expect the difference between each of the rushing thunder hand's echoes was this much. The Hotian 4th stage was the first divide in the water. After reaching the Hotian 4th stage, strength reached 250 kilograms. That was the power of a fierce tiger, extremely ferocious and mighty. But to the Hotian 5th stage, strength rapidly rose, reaching 500 kilograms. The power of 2 tigers. He didn't expect that after practicing to the second echo of the rushing thunder hand that his strength would rise this much. Most people's cultivation would not have this much of an effect because they all break through layer by layer. But Yi Shiwen was different. He broke through in one night. Thus, the increase in strength was particularly pronounced. Hong long long. The sky was slightly bright, the sun rising. Yi Shiwen was located inside the small courtyard. Yi Shiwen was not tired while continuously drilling the rushing thunder hand, already practicing the rushing thunder hand for the whole night. Yi Shiwen's palm technique to palm technique was perfectly unbroken, as if a river flowing unhindered. Because of the practice at the special space, Yi Shiwen cultivated the palm technique like moving clouds and flowing water, casually grasping it, as if it was extremely familiar and ordinary. Yi Shiwen, with not one thread loose, issued the rushing thunder hand. Inside the whole courtyard were rumbles similar to the common sound of thunder. Another rushing thunder hand was issued downwards. Yi Shiwen's whole body was drenched, dripping. His body had steam rising and rising, almost the same as curling clouds and mists. Each time Yi Shiwen issued the rushing thunder hand once, Zhen Qi ran through his body. Yi Shiwen's qi and blood was even more vigorous, increasing strength by a lot. At first, the effect was extremely pronounced. Each time Yi Shiwen issued the rushing thunder hand once, the body's strength increased by half a kilogram, the effect getting more and more weaker afterward. Every 10 times the rushing thunder hand was issued, strength nearly increased by half a kilogram. 3 days later, Yi Shiwen's strength once more increased by 120 kilograms to 435 kilograms. Lightning and thunder. Yi Shiwen greatly roared. The palm technique unexpectedly issued 4 thunderstorm sounds. In other words, 3 days later he even practiced to the addition of 2 echoes. The immense thunderstorm sound was no different from the time at the special space. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yi Shiwen easily issued the 4th echo. The original barrier impeding progress at the moment seemed to not exist. Generally, even if you practice issuing the rushing thunder hand one time, it was difficult to have a little bit of insights. But just in the time of practicing the rushing thunder hand within the space, a great amount of insights and information rushed into the mind. In reality, the deduction speed was 100 times faster. But as for the flaw, it also had one, that was the extreme rate of consuming spirit stones. Cultivating the rushing thunder hand to the degree of the 4th echo used up the 10 spirit stones that were collected with great difficulty. Without a doubt, the effect was exceptionally good. Yi Shiwen would absolutely not give up. Now Yi Shiwen extremely needed spirit stones. But now his spirit stones were already entirely cleanly used up. Though, Yi Kongming over yonder ought to have many spirit stones. After all, it was Zhen Wujie's hard currency. Not only could it be used for cultivation, it could also be treated as currency. But there was nothing to be done, Yi Kongming explained. After all, in normal circumstances it was impossible to use up these spirit stones in a short time. Up until now, Yi Shiwen have no choice but to stop because he already completely exhausted the 10 low-grade spirit stones to deduce the rushing thunder hand's essence. The spirit stones had no spiritual qi and also turned into a pile of fine white powder. Very quickly, Yi Shiwen made a decision to go into the back of the Qingfeng mountain to steal himself. The Yiyuan school was situated inside the Qingfeng mountain. On the mountain were some very fierce demon beasts. These demon beasts all possessed the magical power of terrible beasts. And most importantly, if he wanted to deduce the essence of all kinds of martial arts, he also needed to go kill demon beasts to get crystal stones. That special space inside his mind greatly consumed the crystal stones. Chapter 6. Power off 2 tigers, pass like thunder and move like the wind. Inside a mountain stream's small grove, a distinct chilly shout exploded, suddenly echoing. In the woods, a silhouette traveled back and forth, striking out palm and palm again, making a brilliant sound, but also with bursts of thunderous roars. Purring, a sound muffled. Wood shavings swirled in the air. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared at the place being hit. Also, a quasi sounded. That tree collapsed accordingly. The 4 forms of the rushing thunder hand. Yi Shiwen had already practiced it exceptionally proficiently. Casually grasping it without any obstruction, 5 days had passed in a flash. Yi Shiwen's whole body strength had already reached 497.5 kilograms, a bit of a difference to break through to 500 kilograms to attain the power of 2 tigers. Generally, only 5th-rank warriors had the ability to reach the power of 2 tigers, but Yi Shiwen's strength was already closing into the power of 2 tigers. He was able to sense it. Breaking through from the 4th stage was not far. As a result of his strength already drawing near to the power of 2 tigers, in addition, Yi Shiwen's rushing thunder hand had finally reached 6 echoes. In these 5 days, his progress was nothing less than large. So much to expertly sweep across the Hotian 4th stage. But this was still not enough. It was far from enough. Yi Shiwen issued the rushing thunder hand style over and over, practicing this martial art. The 4th stage and 5th stage were divides in the water. The strength, 500 kilograms, was an immense divide in the water. A warrior's strength of 500 kilograms. A warrior that was possessing the power of 2 tigers could effortlessly defeat a good several warriors possessing a strength of 499.5 kilograms. Because when a person's strength suddenly increased by 250 kilograms, then not only was it barely the same as the body's strength being branched into the hundreds of bones in the 4 limbs of the body, rather strength was condensed into a portion of energy. No longer dispersed, growing and multiplying without end, endlessly. Might would increase several times in a flash, having changes the same as the heaven and earth turning upside down. And after a person's strength increased to 500 kilograms alone, then a second gene would come to be. A lot stronger than an echo of before. Yi Shiwen issued the rushing thunder hand once again, producing 7 muffled rumbling noises in one go. Purng! One more time, Yi Shiwen's shooting palm burst the air, already soaked in sweat from head to toe as if water was fished out from inside. The muscles were sore and numb all over, constantly twitching, seeming like they already persevered to the limit. Yi Shiwen clenched his teeth, throwing off the sweat that nearly dripped into his eye. The whole body was tingling and powerless, but he knew the more this was, the more he could not give up. The Qingfeng Yuan School, although only a branch of the Yuan School's head school, this Yuan School was carved from every kind of very enriching ancient book or record, which also had thorough and detailed ways to break through written down. The key of breaking through lied in how to achieve growing and multiplying without end, endlessly. When the mortal body was its most fatigued, without rest, it gave birth to new strength, forming a cycle endless. Yi Shiwen split the corners of his mouth, without pausing, issuing the rushing thunder hand down again. The silhouette unceasingly shuttled back and forth in the jungle, every gesture and form was meticulous. Not knowing how long had passed, Yi Shiwen's silhouette halted. A palm burst out the gathered thunder-shaped Zhen Qi, making a cracking sound. Hong long long. Hong long long. Purng. Yi Shiwen's palm unexpectedly issued 7 exploding thunderous sounds. Yi Shiwen's whole body's muscles began to throb, bones started to collide, crackling and rattling. His old strength was at its limit, new strength involuntarily appeared to be born. Yi Shiwen's strength had made a breakthrough once again, twisting into a gene, reaching the power of 2 tigers. The strength had a full to bursting type of improvement. Yi Shiwen's cultivation also pushed the boat with the current, breaking through to reach the peak 4th stage. Although, it was only barely the peak 4th stage, but Yi Shiwen achieved the 7th echo of the rushing thunder hand by relying on the power of 2 tigers as well. Even Hotian 5th stage warriors were no match for him. Suddenly, inside that piece of jungle ahead, a subtle rustling sound was heard. After that, a huge, more than 2-meter-tall hog, its whole body covered in monstrously long thorns, made huffing and puffing sounds from its nose, coming from grinding its way from inside the jungle. Yi Shiwen's mind immediately shivered. This was a Hotian 5th stage demon beast, arrow hog. Its greatest weapon were the long thorns densely covering its upper and lower body, able to spray it out when coming across danger. If you're not careful, then you would be shot into a hedgehog. The arrow hog's coarse leather and thick flesh were very difficult to deal with. By attacking with its strong pair of lengthy tusks, it could directly kill a tiger through its head. Only one arrow hog had come out, its little eyes firmly breathing down Yi Shiwen's neck. In one footstep, its body's muscles suddenly tensed up. In a moment, dozens of long thorns similar to arrows launched towards Yi Shiwen, hiding the sky and covering the earth. Yi Shiwen was somewhat gloomy. He also did not knowing what was going on with this brute, but he probably shadowboxed too earnestly just a moment ago, not paying too much attention, then intruded into this arrow hog's territory. But Yi Shiwen's actions were not slow. In under a step, Zhen Qi ruptured under his foot. As live as a swallow, he flew in midair, dodging an overwhelming majority of the long thorns, blowing away another several long thorns. This arrow hog saw that its attack did not show results, in spite of everything it dashed over at a flying speed, completely different to its entirely cumbersome and thick and solid external. The speed was extremely quick. The lengthy tusks arched upwards, going to directly bore through Yi Shiwen's head. In midair, Yi Shiwen's left foot pointed to his right foot, twisting his body, changing direction, barely avoiding the danger of the arrow hog's tusks. Yi Shiwen just fell to the ground. That arrow hog was like a small mountain. Its body then came over to crush him, not giving Yi Shiwen a thread of a chance to breathe. Yi Shiwen coldly snorted. Having not fallen back, in one step a portion of Zhen Qi exploded out. Figure like an arrow, he laid out a palm, seeming to be wrapped in curling clouds and mist. Lightning and thunder. The rumbling sound was ear-splitting. In an instant, Yi Shiwen's palm passed through the middle of arrow hog covered in densely packed long thorns, ruthlessly pushing to the other end of the arrow hog's body. Void cloud energy bursting open, Yi Shiwen's power of two tigers' strength completely ruptured. Purring. This arrow hog had its flesh lacerated from corporeal punishment by Yi Shiwen. Several ribs were broken, giving a repeated pitifully shriek. The body like a small mountain continuously recoiled away from Yi Shiwen. There was nothing it could do if Zhen Qi seized the arrow hog's coarse leather and thick flesh. Not to mention that this was a Hotian 5th stage demon beast and Yi Shiwen was only at the peak 4th stage. But Yi Shiwen's strength had long already broke through to the power of two tigers earlier, not at all smaller than the arrow hog beast. Plus the rushing thunder hand had reached the degree of 7 echoes. One palm, only a hit of one palm bruised and lacerated the arrow hog beast, fracturing ribs, giving an endless blood-curdling screech. Chapter 7, Earth Heart Fruit. Yi Shiwen did not think that his palm would actually be able to strike through the arrow hog beast's coarse leather and thick flesh, sending flesh and blood flying. The 7th echo of the rushing thunder hand really was formidable. The previous 4th echo of the rushing thunder hand and the 7th echo of the rushing thunder hand simply did not have any comparison. The arrow hog beast roared, exceeding expectation and not rushing over, rather turning than running. Although arrow hog beasts' IQ were almost like a usual beast, compared with humans, it's a difference between heaven and earth. But when confronted with the choice of life or death, they were even more unwavering than humankind instead. Unexpectedly, the arrow hog beast actually chose to flee. The lower the demon beast's level, the lower the IQ. Therefore, this kind of change was contrary to expectations. The arrow hog beast, although looking very clumsy in appearance, but in fact, it possessed what many people didn't expect, a skill of sensitivity. In not a while, its figure disappeared into the jungle. Where would Yi Shiwen let the other party run away? Raising the body's internal power, Zhen Qi exploded under the feet. His body technique was used to its pinnacle, as if a figure like a phantom flickering through the sea of clouds, in only a moment of effort, overtaking the arrow hog beast. Yi Shiwen followed the arrow hog beast all the way out of the woods to come on top of a piece of open space. On the side of the open space was a precipice, a horizontal block of large stone, unexpectedly with a 3 high plant. This plant consisted of 6 green leaves surrounding and protecting a scarlet-red fruit, emitting a faint fruity fragrance. A 50-year-old earth heart fruit that was grown from collecting the heaven and earth's elemental qi under the spirit of the earth. Yi Shiwen recalled seeing the record of this type of herbal medicine. An excellent method at increasing the internal power, the main ingredient of a medicine. Generally speaking, a 50-year-old earth heart fruit's excellent medicine could increase 5 years of internal power. It could be said to be extremely precious. Yi Shiwen suddenly clearly understood why this arrow hog beast had such a large enmity with him from the beginning. It should have been mistaken that Yi Shiwen appeared here to fight over the earth heart fruit. Precious heavenly material treasure, not just humans know, demon beasts, although not high in spiritual wisdom, also knew that after waiting until the earth heart fruit was completely ripe, then it would tumble down. This arrow hog beast had already waited for a very long time. Yi Shiwen unfolded the phantom cloud track, pursuing in a moment, turning the body in the air, pressing down a palm. Purring. The rushing thunder hand was fully used to the peak by Yi Shiwen. Each palm was thunderous. Even if a Hotian 4th stage warrior contending against the palm would be seriously injured. Fortunately, this arrow hog skin was coarse and its flesh was thick, too far for an ordinary Hotian 4th stage warrior to match. Otherwise, it would have already been beaten dead by Yi Shiwen. But even so, enduring Yi Shiwen's palm, the arrow hog beast's directly clapped vertebra had snapped off. "Oh!" The arrow hog beast screamed, its huge body crashing to the ground, twitching endlessly. Where would Yi Shiwen let this opportunity slip by, grabbing the air when the palm of his gave a direct hit to the skull, cracking it. Blood mixed together with brains splattering out. The arrow hog beast breathlessly screamed. Yi Shiwen was immediately somewhat incredulous. A Hotian 5th stage demon beast actually took 3 palms to be beaten dead. This was absolutely unthinkable in the past. Generally, demon beasts on the same level as other warriors were more formidable. Now it was not even a match to his 3 palms. This made him, with regards to being inside the school for over a month, larger than confident. Yi Shiwen did not have politeness, cutting open this enormous arrow hog beast's body, digging out the demon core. This kind of demon core that was the location of the source of its life essence was the most valuable. However, it was only a Hotian 5th stage demon core. But at the very least its value was also 20 low-grade spirit stones. It was also because of this that demon beasts' demon cores were so valuable, consequently more and more people went hunting demon beasts every year. But many of them could only be used as the demon beast's rations, buried in the beasts' mouths. But Yi Shiwen did not have the notion of selling off the demon cores. If handed over to the school, it could be exchanged into school credits. The school's credits on the outside were perhaps not worth a coin, but its usefulness inside the school was certainly great. Comprising the ability to exchange for outstanding power laws, herbal medicines to raise internal power, as well as the independent direction of some elder. Regarding Yi Shiwen, these were much more important compared to money. In this world of paramount strength, only having formidable strength was absolute, the rest was all floating clouds. Of course, an arrow hog's other body parts could also be sold for a sum of money, but Yi Shiwen could only carry a certain amount. He could only give up. After taking the demon core into a sack, Yi Shiwen immediately began to climb along the cliff. Along with Yi Shiwen's internal power making headway now, the body's inner quality had advanced by leaps and bounds. Like apes and monkeys, free to advance or retreat, Yi Shiwen very quickly climbed onto the rocks on the cliff in front of that earth heart fruit. Quivering in the wind, a herbal fragrance assailed the nose. Yi Shiwen immediately reached out towards the earth heart fruit to take it away. Although a 50-year-old earth heart fruit herbal efficacy was not the best, but for Yi Shiwen now, it was better than without it. Able to increase 5 years of internal power, Yi Shiwen could even directly use the internal power to push through the Hotian Peak 4th stage. A sudden burst of sound came through from above, a fishy-smelling wind assaulted the senses. Yi Shiwen subconsciously stamped his feet to avoid this fierce wind. Yi Shiwen took a closer look. Unexpectedly, a huge, brightly multicolored python opened up its bloody mouth wide like a sacrificial bowl. The fishy smell could be smelled everywhere. My God, this huge python was no less than half a person wide, about 5 or 6 meters long, with some magical skills. The so-called panacea had an unusual beast guarding its side. Originally, Yi Shiwen still believed it was those arrow hog beasts. As a result, he more or less relaxed, fortunately not completely losing preparedness. Otherwise, the mouth of that huge python would bite off a small half of the body. This snake had clearly magical skills because the earth heart fruit only grew in a region of rich spiritual qi. Passing through long-term moistening of spiritual qi, this huge python evidently had also changed from a beast into a demon beast, actually reaching the Hotian initial 5th stage by looks. Also not able to sense the spiritual qi around here, obviously it was this earth heart fruit thoroughly absorbing it. The fishy smell greeted the nose. Yi Shiwen's feet exchanged. Phantom cloud track. Avoiding the huge multicolored python's pounce to bite directly. Turning the body and laying out a palm. Pass like thunder and move like the wind. Yi Shiwen's palm was extremely quick, firmly printing on that huge multicolored python's body. Purring. Unexpectedly, it produced a sound of a cross between gold and iron. The huge multicolored python's body's multicolored scales were harder than a common iron sheet. How was the strength of Yi Shiwen? The palm striking the huge multicolored python shifted it across several meters. Chapter 8 Hotian 5th Stage. At this instant, the tail of that huge multicolored python was horizontally flung over, creating impressive wind. In a blink of an eye, it was flung in front of Yi Shiwen. This huge multicolored python's tail was as hard as metal and stone, whipping across. The strength was definitely not be smaller than the power of 2 tigers. Although a snake-type demon beast's strength was not its forte, the flung-over tail of the Hotian initial 5th stage huge multicolored python's strength absolutely surpassed 500 kilograms. From the sturdy whip, even bones would break by the whip. Purring! Yi Shiwen's palms both went up to meet it, ferociously hitting it. Again sounded a sound of a cross between gold and iron. Yi Shiwen suddenly shouted. Firmly grabbing the tail that was whipped over, the arm's veins suddenly stuck out, transporting the body's strength, throwing the huge multicolored python into the air. Oh! The over 50-kilogram huge multicolored python was ruthlessly thrown into the air by Yi Shiwen, producing a piercing whistling sound. Hong! A loud sound. That huge multicolored python was directly whipped into the cliff by Yi Shiwen. That huge multicolored python was forcibly whipped by Yi Shiwen, directly sinking deep into the cliff. Wisps of blood seeped out of its thick long body. The intensity of this whip was very clearly not small. The huge multicolored python struggled to escape, but how would Yi Shiwen let this huge python do as it wanted, immediately getting up to dance again? Hong! 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 Soon, this huge multicolored python fell to its death by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen could not consider resting, digging out this huge multicolored python's demon core and afterwards immediately digging out the earth heart fruit. Yi Shiwen departed this place very quickly because the reek of blood here would very rapidly draw the mountain's other demon beasts to come. When that moment came, it would inevitably be troublesome. Although the mountain ranges outside region here probably did not have greatly formidable demon beasts, it was a troublesome affair. But also, in case a formidable demon beast ran out did not play by the rules, he'd be crying and weeping without a place to go. This mountain's demon beasts were too many, he had no choice but to protect himself. The reason why the Yuan school was situated on such a mountain was to intimidate the lot of demon beasts dwelling in the mountain, to avert the demon beasts from descending the mountain to disturb the people. Yi Shiwen soon returned to the Yuan school. He had almost left several days ago. Nothing changed. Yi Shiwen went straight to the Gongda Palace. Inside the Yuan school it was specially responsible for the exchange of disciples' contributed goods, converting them into school credits. Yi Shiwen strode in, coming in front of the credit exchange steward. These stewards were some real powerful people inside the school. Not at all like an elder, but controlling some real authority. Although their true strength was not too high, generally disciples could not afford to offend them. This young steward was called Wang Shi, previously the Yuan school's disciple. His behavior was relatively harsh. Liking to fawn on influential people, common disciples did not like him. Wang Shi somewhat arrogantly said, "You are going to exchange credits?" No. Yi Shiwen shook his head, taking out that arrow hog and huge multicolored python's demon cores. "I wish to exchange these 2 demon cores for crystal stones." Wang Shi received the 2 demon cores very indifferently, then said, "A Hotian 5th stage demon core can be exchanged for low-grade spirit stones numbering at 20, 2 can be exchanged for spirit stones numbering at 40. Yi Shiwen expressed agreement. Although the quality between each demon core also had a disparity, if sold in private, there could be 1 or 2 more. But it was far more convenient to directly go to the Gongda Palace to exchange them. After taking the spirit stones, Yi Shiwen then turned to leave. Having 40 low-grade spirit stones and an earth heart fruit, he could wholly directly deduce the rushing thunder 9th hand to the degree of 9 echoes. At that moment, this martial art would be complete. Yi Shiwen left the Gongda Palace, returning to his small courtyard. Time was getting more and more pressing. He must enhance his true strength as quickly as possible. Yi Shiwen sat cross-legged on the bed, taking out the earth heart fruit, swallowing it. After swallowing the earth heart fruit very rapidly changed into warmth circulating inside Yi Shiwen's body. The flowing warmth was raised in the dantian. Suddenly the whole body's Jin Qi frantically went up and running. Yi Shiwen's face began to change to red. With Yi Shiwen's Zhen Qi within the body frantically working, the originally stable domain level appeared to start to loosen. Yi Shiwen fully transferred the Zhen Qi within the body, refining this energy. Every refinement, Zhen Qi strengthened inside Yi Shiwen's body. Furthermore, more of the energy began to quench the body under Yi Shiwen's guidance. Countless energies ripped apart and reconstructed Yi Shiwen's whole body cells. Reconstructing and ripping apart. Yi Shiwen's face exposed a feeling of pain and enjoyment intertwining together. When countless cells were ripped apart, only thinking of the entire world crumbling, Yi Shiwen's body made a crackling sound as if releasing the loud sounds of intermittent firecrackers. This was Yi Shiwen's mortal body experiencing transformation. Yi Shiwen had immediately gotten down his bed, going into the small courtyard. Shouting loudly, beginning the rushing thunder hands routine, inside the mind was the image of a person drilling the rushing thunder hands essence at a flying speed. The 2 demon cores exchanged for 40 spirit stones. Spiritual chi surged in abundance, surging into Yi Shiwen's whole body. Hong long long. Yi Shiwen's small courtyard was filled with the sound of rumbling thunder. Yi Shiwen's body also made a crackling sounds. The strength inside Yi Shiwen's body also increased at a flying speed. The power of 2 tigers. The power of 2.5 tigers. The power of 3 tigers. The power of 4 tigers. The power of 5 tigers. Hong. All of a sudden, the Hotian Peak 4th stage domain level of Yi Shiwen broke through by a flood of energy. Hotian 5th stage. However, this upgrade was not over, but still rocketing. Just reaching the Hotian 5th stage, Yi Shiwen's Zhen Qi clambered up at an astonishing rate, straight to the Hotian mid-5th stage. Yi Shiwen endlessly indulged in the feeling of this rapid breakthrough. Just when the Hotian late 5th stage was attacked, he suddenly felt that the feeling of the vast and limitless energy flow unexpectedly disappeared. The power of 5 tigers. A tremendous exploding sound. The countless energy inside Yi Shiwen again twisted into a gene. Originally those 3 Dao gene inside Yi Shiwen's body were relatively distant. This showed that Yi Shiwen had once again condensed the power of 1 tiger to reach the power of 5 tigers, comparable to Hotian's 6th stage experts. Hong long long. An immense thunderstorm sound. Yi Shiwen issued the rushing thunder hand once again. After producing the 7th echo, in a spurt of energy, the spirit was bright and empty. Only in the special space inside the mind was that silhouette constantly drilling the essence of the rushing thunder hand. Purring. The thunderstorm's 8th sound finally came out of nowhere. This was also the sign that Yi Shiwen had at last deduced an overwhelming majority of the essence of the rushing thunder hand. The 8th echo of the rushing thunder hand instantly increased its formidable power by a level. It actually could be on par with some mid-level power techniques. Chapter 9. Seizing treasure. Yi Shiwen's skinny body was immersed in sweat, covered in some black impurities, which were some impurities hidden in the body. Great, breaking through to the 5th stage, also having the power of 5 tigers plus the 8th echo of the rushing thunder hand. When the time comes, 6th stage experts can be blown away, simply a breakthrough advancing by leaps and bounds. Yi Shiwen happily said. Hotian 9 stages, every stage differed enormously. The power of 2 tigers only entered the 5th stage, but the Hotian 6th stage actually needed the power of 5 tigers, surpassing 1,250 kilograms. Shedding light on fighting strength, with blowing away 6th stage expert strength, Yi Shiwen could be the highest rank within inner sect disciples. But in order to become promoted into a core disciple, this was not enough. Only if Yi Shiwen could break through to the Hotian 6th stage, when that moment came he had considerable hope to be promoted to a core disciple. Breaking through to the power of 5 tigers without a hitch, Yi Shiwen readily struck a punch, able to shake the air. Compared with before, it was the difference between heaven and earth. However, even though strength rapidly increased, the price was very big. The earth heart fruit was already completely digested clean. Those 40 spirit stones to also deduce the rushing thunder hand's last echo were even nearly exhausted. It was much larger consumption compared with the deducing of the 8th echo before. Of course, After deducing the rushing thunder hand's eighth echo, the rushing thunder hand's might could also not be mentioned in the same breath, reaching the might of a mid-level power technique in one move. To wish to advance strength by leaps and bounds, whether to deduce martial arts or improve a domain level, it was inevitably linked to the spirit stones and heavenly material treasures such as the earth heart fruit. All in all, with how scarce they are, at the present the most dependable means was to kill demon beasts, then exchange for crystal stones. It could also raise battle experience, getting some in one fell swoop. After deciding, Yi Shiwen speedily left the Yuan School station, going towards the depths of the Qingfeng Mountains. Time passed day by day. Yi Shiwen had already spent 3 days in the Qingfeng Mountains. Yi Shiwen had already gone into the Qingfeng Mountains quite deeply. Now able to see some Hotian 5th stage, even Hotian 6th stage, demon beasts roaming about. Yesterday, Yi Shiwen came across a Hotian Peak 6th stage demon beast, nearly losing his life inside that demon beast's mouth. Truly hanging by a thread at that time, up until now Yi Shiwen deeply felt that not having a weapon was really very much inconvenient. When confronting a person it was not bad, but when confronting these demon beasts, he suffered losses everywhere. In the end, hands could not be compared with demon beasts' claws and teeth. On this day, Yi Shiwen crossed a gorge, finding blood-colored ginseng above a cliff. Yi Shiwen had once seen this blood-colored ginseng in various records. It was a mutation of ginseng. Ordinary ginseng raised a person's internal power efficacy, but this sort of blood-colored ginseng did several times that of ordinary ginseng. Seeing this red blood ginseng's appearance, it was at least an over 100-year-old mature spirit fruit. If this red blood ginseng was taken, at the very least Yi Shiwen could directly break through to the Hotian 6th stage. At that time, Yi Shiwen could steadily promote to a core disciple. Time to see who would dare to underestimate him. Yi Shiwen hesitated no longer, promptly climbing up, movement incomparably nimble. Like a spirit ape, very swiftly climbing to the position where the red blood ginseng was. Yi Shiwen spread out his big hand, grasping to take the red blood ginseng away. Purring! Yi Shiwen just grabbed a handful of soil, not grabbing the red blood ginseng. Raising his head to look, the red blood ginseng unexpectedly appeared to leave here to a place 100 meters away. This red blood ginseng actually has a hazy consciousness. Yi Shiwen was greatly astonished. Between heaven and earth, all living things had a spirit, even a block of stone. After going through millions and millions of years, there may not be a hope of achieving the Tao. Ginseng like this was a heavenly material treasure, furthermore gathered the essence of heaven and earth. A millennium-year-old ginseng king could give rise to a hazy consciousness. Even if found by average people, it could not be caught. The disposition of ginseng had a supernatural power to connect to the earth. Even if necessary, it could travel a few hundred kilometers in a day. In the case a ginseng king could have matured 10,000 years, it could even assume human form, becoming a mountain spirit. And this red blood ginseng was really worthy of a ginseng mutation. Only 100 years of maturity, it unexpectedly could already bring a hazy unconsciousness mind into being. It seemed that it was probably unable to change form without a millennium years. But since it was seen by Yi Shiwen, he naturally would not let it slip by. Yi Shiwen's whole body was vigorous, Zhen Qi exploding open. Yi Shiwen's body suddenly flew up in the air, just like a praying large eagle throwing itself at that red blood ginseng. Purring! Yi Shiwen was thrown into the cliff, a hand grabbing the red blood ginseng. The red blood ginseng was too late to escape Yi Shiwen dragging it out the cliff, leaving the earth. The red blood ginseng's supernatural power of connecting to the earth was useless. Yi Shiwen showed a smile on his face, just about to climb down to try and find a secluded place to swallow it. Suddenly a loud shout exploded from behind. Surrender the red blood ginseng. Yi Shiwen turned his head to look, seeing 3 young men looking at him indifferently. These 3 young men included 2 about 20 years old, separately wearing black and purple clothing. And in the middle was a juvenile about 17 or 18 years old, white robe from head to toe, about the same age as Yi Shiwen, with a look of arrogance. Issuing the voice was actually the black-clothed youth. You are a Yuan school disciple. That arrogant-looking black-clothed youth said to Yi Shiwen. You are people of the Zhang family? Yi Shiwen looked to their shoulder-mouth crest, immediately somewhat vigilant. The Qingfeng Mountains stretched for several hundred li. The branches on the mountain range were easily the Diyu country's greatest. In the Qingfeng Mountains were two powers altogether, one was the Yiyuan school, one was the Zhang family. The Yiyuan school was a branch of the Diyu country's Yiyuan school head school, and standing behind the Zhang family was the Diyu country's additional giant, the Sky Wind Hall. Their large power was completely not below the Yiyuan school. Because they also belonged to the two different powers, bilateral relations have been quite tense as a result. When out in the open, they have misgivings about the other party's background power, but maintained friendly on the surface. But secretly they actually were constantly dirty. In the Qingfeng Mountains depths, in which both sides' disciples learn through experience, the affair of pain and killing in under a word at the earliest convenience was not a new thing. This is our Zhang family's young master, surrender that red blood ginseng. That black-clothed youth clamored. This is what I found. Yi Shiwen Vigilante said, secretly pondering in his heart, him coming across this affair of murdering people to seize treasures won't do. Our young master, you did not hear? Black-clothed youth. What nonsense you're telling him, only a Yuan school trash. Kill him, wasn't the red blood ginseng ours? The purple-clothed youth said somewhat impatiently, face a bit grim. Chapter 10. Easily accomplished. Yi Shiwen listened, suddenly starting. This was murder to seize treasure. Sure enough, the voice did not fall, only a whistling noise was heard. That purple-clothed youth, in under a step his figure burst out. Both hands were made into a pair of talons. It was a primary hand power technique, the eagle claw power. Combined with the strength of a Hotian late 5th stage, even quartzite could be clawed through. Its was might enormous. He was also well known for relying on the eagle claw power in the Zhang family's inner disciples. The purple-clothed youth's body appeared like a large eagle. Both hands appeared to be claws, maliciously grabbing down, shaking and cracking the air. Face full of a sardonic smile, he could almost see the scene of Yi Shiwen seriously injured by grabbing with his claws. As if a large eagle instantly arrived to kill, Zhen Qi condensed into an eagle shape. Yi Shiwen put out his hand in a flash, raising a burst of a crackling thunderstorm sound. Only one hand stretched out, directly tearing into the purple-clothed youth's Zhen Qi body protection, grabbing the purple-clothed youth's neck. The strength of both sides really differed too much, breaking the defense in an instant. The purple-clothed youth's neck was grabbed by Yi Shiwen's one hand. Yi Shiwen's large hand was like an iron hoop firmly binding his neck. Unable to make the entire body pull its weight, unable to gasp for air, going down like this he would even be crushed to death by Yi Shiwen. This was Yi Shiwen's first time raising a hand on a person. But with the power of 5 tigers and the 8th echo of the rushing thunder hand, this purple-clothed youth was completely forced down by strength. This was an absolute disparity in strength. Both the Zhang family young master and the black-clothed youth's faces looked incredibly. This was simply just like myths and legends. Stop, quickly release him. The black-clothed youth shouted loudly. Then back to you. Under Yi Shiwen's robe, muscles stretched to their tightest, the purple-clothed youth was directly thrown out. Purring. In between a blink of an eye, the purple-clothed youth flew in front of the black-clothed youth. The black-clothed youth raised both hands to welcome it. Immediately, in a college sound, both hands of the black-clothed youth were directly hit by immense strength. Now Yi Shiwen's whole body's strength had already exceeded the strength of 5 tigers, surpassing 1,250 kilograms. That black-clothed youth was only Hotian 5th stage, strength only the power of 3 tigers. How could he live? Thus, all of a sudden his arm was smashed off. Kala. Broken bones penetrated the man's voice. The purple-clothed youth's back ferociously hit the black-clothed youth's arms, directly fracturing the vertebra. Broken bones perforated the internal organs. Blood immediately spurted out the mouth. Falling unconscious, life or death was unknown. Saying this took long, but this matter was no more than between several breaths. That Zhang family young master was suddenly furious, but for a short time. The two subordinates, one actually lost consciousness, One's hands were broken, incessantly wailing. For him, it was practically swinging a firm slap in his face. "You truly acted recklessly," the Zhang family young master indignantly shouted, whole body spreading Zhenqi. Comparatively, the purple-clothed youth and the black-clothed youth were not the least bit stronger. Ho Tian's sixth stage strength was utterly astonishing. It already entitled you to become a core disciple. "I will break your hands and feet, take away your martial power, then skin your muscles away." The Zhang family young master fist exploded outwards, tough fist energy. The exploding air was boiling up. Zhenqi nearly ran through the vast sky. Fist energy twisted into a Jin Dao, like a Qi dragon going towards Yi Shiwen. "Pass like thunder and move like the wind," shouted Yi Shiwen, shooting out the rushing thunder hand accompanied with a rumbling thunder, defeating the Zhang family young master's Qi dragon mercilessly in one move with the Yang Yi fist. Peng! As if it were the sound of a cross between gold and iron, the Zhang family young master's both hands immediately snapped. Blood sprayed out the mouth, the body flew upside down, eyes filled with an inconceivable look. "How is it possible, Eighth Echo? You actually practiced to the Eighth Echo." The Zhang family young master absolutely didn't expect that Yi Shiwen could actually practice the rushing thunder hand to this perfect domain level. Issuing the Eighth Echo, it was impossible for a lot of core disciples. The rushing thunder hand was not a profound secret book. The Zhang family also had it in their collection, but he also did not see a disciple of this age able to practice it to the Eighth Echo. And even more frightening was that Yi Shiwen unexpectedly also had the force of the power of 5 tigers. It was not the dispersed strength of innate divine power, rather twisted into the strength of 5 Jin Dao. This was the single hit's root cause of his broken hands. "You know that it's useless," Yi Shiwen sneered, catching up. The rushing thunder hand was pressed to the peak, a palm still beating across the Zhang family young master. Peng! The Zhang family's chest exploded into pieces, the sternum disintegrated. Flesh and blood splattered. Heart directly blown out by Yi Shiwen. Immediately dying, unable to die again. In a moment, the situation was reversed. A moment ago the 3 people were encircling Yi Shiwen, now one died, one lost consciousness and one was seriously injured. "Impossible, you actually killed the young master?" that black-clothed youth wailing in grief said. Yi Shiwen's face was expressionless, slowly moving towards at an exaggerated width. "This was our mistake, you let us off, we received the little master's incitement. We will surely not breathe a word, will absolutely not speak out." That black-clothed youth's face at last showed a fearful expression. Only inside that fearful expression a trace of enmity flashed by, but it was caught by Yi Shiwen. "Do you believe these words? And you don't have injustice or enmity, you actually joined to surround and kill me, to go kill me in a brief remark at the earliest convenience, robbing my red blood ginseng. At that time did you want to cut me some slack?" That black-clothed youth's persuasion was dismissed. How could Yi Shiwen easily be convinced? That hint of enmity let Yi Shiwen understand he was surely planning revenge afterwards. Seeing Yi Shiwen determined to kill him, the black-clothed youth immediately became frantic. "You won't live, our Zhang family's experts are nearby here. If we don't return they would know something, they will surely take revenge for us. All of this, you reap what you have sown." Yi Shiwen refused to acknowledge anything, only shooting out a palm. Zhenqi violently surged forward. "Peng!" The black-clothed youth screamed, immediately dying. After killing the black-clothed youth, Yi Shiwen killed the unconscious purple-clothed youth as well, handling the matter of silencing the witnesses of murder for the first time. Yi Shiwen was too late to think about it because he just heard that black-clothed man's argument. In the vicinity here were many of Zhang family's experts. He had to leave as quickly as possible. Yi Shiwen left not long after a party of 5 men hurried to the scene. Seeing 3 already dead people collapsed on the ground, the whole group of 5 immediately burned in rage. The young master's corpse is warm, showing that the murderer has not gone far. "Pursue, I'll pursue and pursue to the ends of the earth, skinning his muscles will not eliminate the hate in my heart." The leader of the 5 men, the man with a long scar on his face roared, gnashing his teeth. "Yes, The other 4 men answered. Chapter 11. Stimulating battle inside the forest of the Qing Feng Mountains depths. Figure therein leaped up. It's been 3 days since the killing of that Zhang family young master. It has already been 3 days. He ran away straight into the forest. He did not take long after leaving that cliff. He discovered there was someone chasing to kill him, almost catching up several times. Yi Shiwen had dark thoughts. This time he probably really killed some great person. Otherwise, it was unlikely to go so far as to chase after 3 days and 3 nights. Moreover, it seemed that much more and more people in the Zhang family received the news. But Yi Shiwen did not regret. A real man did just what he did. After all, that Zhang family young master went too far. Suddenly the sound of footsteps came from behind. Yi Shiwen suddenly jumped up, flying to lush branches, covering his figure. Before long, a party of 2 people already arrived at Yi Shiwen's position just a moment ago, 1 tall and 1 short. The 2 dressed in the Zhang family's warrior apparel. How are the footprints not here? There were still some just now. That lanky warrior said. No matter what, be sure to pursue. The family master is furious. Be sure to capture the murderer. So long as that murderer is captured, our success is not far. That dumpy warrior declared. Die. That warrior expert immediately withdrew a shooting palm, figure like an arrow, shooting towards the place above. Originally, they had already discovered him a moment ago, saying those words to let him relax. Yi Shiwen immediately became gloomy. He was still too careless, experience still really too lacking. The footprints disappeared here, they had discovered. Lulling him before a surprise attack now. If Yi Shiwen did not continuously maintain vigilance, the surprise attack just now would have likely seriously injured Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen stretched out a hand. A burst of a crackling thunderstorm sound, 8th echo. Yi Shiwen came to use it with all his strength. As matters stand, he did not dare to have any carelessness, palm pressing down. Kala. Only a kala sound was heard. This lanky warrior's arm was suddenly broken by Yi Shiwen's direct hit. How could this Hotian Peak 5th stage warrior possibly block Yi Shiwen's power of 5 tigers? Not to mention the whole might of the rushing thunder hand's 8th echo. That lanky warrior screamed and dropped down. Yi Shiwen stepped on a thick and solid branch, suddenly figure like an arrow, dropping towards that lanky warrior to chase him down. Peng! Yi Shiwen caught up. The rushing thunder hand fiercely attacked that lanky warrior's body. That lanky warrior miserably shrieked, badly mutilated by Yi Shiwen. Killed in 1 move. Brat, you court death? That dumpy warrior saw that his comrade was actually shot dead by Yi Shiwen. Immediately furious, firing a punch, like a sharp arrow of qi energy was shot towards Yi Shiwen. Peng! Yi Shiwen directly welcomed it to disperse the dumpy warrior's fist energy, immediately stepping forward, shooting out a palm, followed by a rumbling thunderstorm sound. That dumpy warrior immediately panicked and lifted a hand to block, straightaway breaking his arm from Yi Shiwen's shooting palm. Immediately giving a blood-curdling screech, body rolling onto the ground, unexpectedly directly turning around to flee. By now, he still could not understand how he absolutely couldn't handle Yi Shiwen now. Only how could Yi Shiwen let the other person leave? Stretching out only 1 hand. Hong long long, a thunderstorm sound. Yi Shiwen's movement was as quick as lightning, in a flash shooting to that dumpy warrior's back. Pooh! That dumpy warrior sprayed out a mouthful of blood, mixed with internal organs. 5 organs and 6 bowels were broken into pieces by Yi Shiwen's shooting palm, spraying out the mouth. Hong! That dumpy warrior's fat body took 2 steps forward, crashing into the ground. Yi Shiwen relieved. Next time he absolutely must not be careless. Brat, how dare you actually dare to kill my Zhang family's men? At this moment, a person's shadow appeared in the branches above. Yi Shiwen looked up. It was an about 20-year-old handsome-faced black-clothed youth. You may kill me first, I'll only counterattack. Yi Shiwen spoke. Hung, sophistry, even if you killed my Zhang family's men, you will also obediently go down without a fight. That black-clothed youth overbearingly said. Quite overbearing. Yi Shiwen sneered. Overbearing, overbearing, How can you deal with me? That black-clothed youth laughed savagely. A formidable, imposing manner was released, directly sweeping down the countless branches. Unexpectedly, Hotion late 6th stage. That black-clothed youth's palm flipped over, the palm became a blade. Zhen Qi straightaway sprayed out, condensing into the appearance of a long blade. The blade chopped out, blade qi warping and weaving. Yi Shiwen was suddenly greatly astonished. He knew that to condense Zhen Qi into a weapon, only with the might of a Xiantian domain-level abilities could Xiantian experts congeal qi into gang. Gang weapons were even more difficult to deal with than ordinary weapons. Difficult to deal with even compared to magic weapons. Facing the blade qi head-on, Yi Shiwen did not dare to directly receive it. Although there was no bladey in his hand, this blade qi was surely real. Yi Shiwen greatly shouted, a palm shooting out a round thunder-shaped Zhen Qi, welcoming it. Hong! Peng! Yi Shiwen's Zhen Qi, although counteracted most of the blade qi, the remnants of the blade qi still fiercely hit the mountain, Yi Shiwen. Only this hit made Yi Shiwen receive some internal injuries. You had better obediently go down without a fight. Although you killed my younger brother, killing is good, ha! Look, at this point I'll leave you intact. That black-clothed youth burst into loud laughter. Yi Shiwen wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth, sneering, "You lot of nonsense, want me to go down without a fight? Impossible!" Then dropped dead. Inside the black-clothed youth's expression flickered a hint of madness. In the hands of the Zhen Qi blade dance, blade qi chopped out. Like a hot knife through butter, directly splitting open the air advancing towards Yi Shiwen. Hong! That Zhen Qi attacked Yi Shiwen's body, deep bones could clearly be seen, Yi Shiwen muffled a groan. Yi Shiwen's eyes' expression also flickered a hint of madness. He decided to fight. It went without saying that the difference between his strength and the black-clothed youth was a lot. That black-clothed youth's explosive power was at least at the power of 7 tigers, more than the power of 2 tigers compared with him. Again, a long-range attack. Going down like this, he could only passively take a beating. He had no choice but to face it with his bullied body, displaying the 8th echo of the Rushing Thunder Hand's superior strength. The Rushing Thunder Hand's 8th echo already approached the stage of perfection. One palm shot out endless formidable power. This was Yi Shiwen's only chance. After Yi Shiwen firmly endured this much, not falling back, instead in the step of the foot, Zhen Qi exploded, treading deep footprints into the earth. Figure like an arrow flying out. That black-clothed youth did not expect that Yi Shiwen could actually firmly resist this strike after dashing over. By the time he reacted, Yi Shiwen had already dashed nearby. Immediately somewhat surprised, but then the blade chopped down again. Blade qi warped and weft. Chapter 12, Cold Moon Beheader. How could Yi Shiwen let the other person attack? One palm stretched out to directly grab that black-clothed youth's wrist. The Zhen Qi blade immediately halted. That black-clothed youth's strength was still larger than Yi Shiwen, only stagnating for a split second, then proceeding chop down. But just in this split second it was already enough. Yi Shiwen had already made complete preparations. Rushing Thunder Hand, 8th echo. Pass like thunder and move like the wind. Yi Shiwen shouted, right hand twisting with thunder-shaped Zhen Qi. The palm shot into the black-clothed youth's chest. Peng! That black-clothed youth was beaten by the direct palm, body like a kite's broken string, flying upside down, soaring high up, then fiercely falling to the ground. Very many bones were broken by Yi Shiwen's beating. He gasped for air as if a cow. The black-clothed youth opened his eyes wide at Yi Shiwen, somewhat incredibly saying, "You actually dare to shadow me?" Even more not daring to believe that Yi Shiwen was actually this crazy. To attack him, he actually resolutely endured his strike. That could be said to be crazy. Hey! Yi Shiwen stopped his own bleeding, complexion somewhat deathly pale. Just now bone was visible in the deep split open wound, the blood flow was without end. Now Yi Shiwen was free to staunch himself a little bit. Yi Shiwen did not waste any more time, facing that one fallen on the ground. Rushing to the powerless from head to toe black-clothed youth. "You cannot kill me." The black-clothed youth at this moment was finally somewhat panic-stricken, saying, "I am the Zhang family's young master. If you kill me, you will have great troubles. Once the battle began, you would die to me." Yi Shiwen understood that he mustn't release this black-clothed youth or there will be trouble in the future, definitely extremely large. The experience of these days told him, you could not be soft-hearted. This world was full of the weak being prey to the strong, the law of the jungle. Yi Shiwen headed for that black-clothed youth step by step. "You go to hell." That black-clothed youth's face abruptly showed a sinister expression, suddenly brandishing an arm, a blade crescent moon blade chi swept out, advancing to behead Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen stamped his feet, figure shifting, dodging this first dangerous counterattack. He repeatedly warned himself to be prudent. How could not guard against this? Rushing thunderhand, eighth echo. A rumbling sound reverberated in the woods. That black-clothed youth's alarmed face grew more and more intense. Purring. After a scream, that black-clothed finally passed away with a deep unwillingness. Yi Shiwen saw that black-clothed youth was killed by him at last. Immediately relaxing, sitting down on the ground, gasping for air gulp by gulp. Not resting much, Yi Shiwen stood up, beginning to plunder the three people's bodies. Murder, seizing treasures, they were often together. On the Hotian 5th stage expert's body he found 20 low-grade spirit stones altogether, furthermore, 120 silver notes. Then Yi Shiwen began to search that black-clothed youth's body. Yi Shiwen found a pleasant surprise. This black-clothed youth's body unexpectedly had a storage ring. Moreover, its size was not small, actually having surpassed nearly 100 cubic meters in size. It must be known with storage rings and the like that spatial-type goods were the most expensive. Even if only 10 cubic meters in size, it required 100 spirit stones at the very least. But 100 cubic meters took a minimum of over 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. At the Yiyuan school only those Xiantian domain-level elders had the financial resources to buy it. Yi Shiwen had only seen it his foster father Yi Kongming's body. He did not expect that this black-clothed youth actually had a 100 cubic meter storage ring. Really worthy of a Zhang family's young master. After obtaining the storage ring, Yi Shiwen searched with an enthralled knowing look, immediately exulting. As expected, proceeding to compare this black-clothed youth, those two Hotian 5th stage experts paled in insignificance. Within the storage ring were solely over 500 low-grade spirit stones, which made Yi Shiwen not need to worry about the matter of spirit stones for some time. Besides spirit stones were also 12,000 silver notes. Of course, the most pleasant surprise for Yi Shiwen was inside this spatial ring. It unexpectedly had a martial arts secret book. Just like that black-clothed youth a moment ago, the secret of condensing qi into gang. When this black-clothed youth at the Hotian 6th stage, it could let him possess Xiantian domain-level power. This power technique was certainly rather out of the ordinary. This power technique was called the Cold Moon Beheader, unexpectedly a Xiantian-level power technique. Cold Moon Beheader altogether had 3 layers. The first layer was called the New Moon Beheader, the second layer was the Missing Moon Beheader, and the third layer was the Full Moon Beheader. Mastering the New Moon Beheader could compare to the might of mid-level power laws. Mastering the Missing Moon Beheader could compare to the might of high-level power techniques. If the third layer Full Moon Beheader was also mastered, then it could display the might of Xiantian-level power techniques. Its might could be considered boundless. Originally, Yi Shiwen also considered learning a weaponry martial art in the future, making up for weak points. Now he had this Cold Moon Beheader to fully compensate for this problem. That Cold Moon Beheader could already be used to issue out a long blade. It also could condense qi into a gang instead. Even if there were sets of unique methods of condensing qi into gang, making Zhen qi into an incomparably firm long blade, it was able of displaying the Cold Moon Beheader's might. Of course, if having a weapon, its might was naturally a bit stronger. Yi Shiwen promptly put everything into the spatial ring, then rapidly left here. Those groups chasing to kill Yi Shiwen, every group leaving was very tight. It was estimated that before long, hearing the sound of activity, they would come over. Now Yi Shiwen's situation really had no way to deal with the following groups. He must find a place to heal. Yi Shiwen left not long after a small 5-man group had already advanced to here, led by that middle-aged man with a lengthy scar on his face. Seeing the 3 dead bodies lying on the ground, his complexion immediately became ashen, especially that young master's corpse. It made his eyelids jump, the face with a scar increasingly getting more malevolent. "Pursue, be sure to give killing this murderer to me. He killed my Zhang family's 2 young masters. If you are unable to catch him, those of you must die." The scarred man very fiercely said, the whole body's imposing manner completely released out, unexpectedly a peak 7th stage expert. "Notify our men, give me chase. Be sure to kill this murderer, dismember him into pieces. Find suspicious people, kill them, kill wrongdoers rather than letting them off." "Yes." The other several warriors saluted one after another. A shrill and piercing sound resounded in the whole forest. It was the Zhang family's signal to assemble. Yi Shiwen had already moved away for a long time, yet heard this piercing sound. Suddenly his heart started. This was the Zhang family's signal. It seemed like they truly must annihilate him. He must find a way to get rid of these pursuers, otherwise Yi Shiwen, who already slaughtered the 2 Zhang family young masters, would absolutely be chased to the ends of the earth and killed by the other side. Giving it a thought, Yi Shiwen's silhouette melted into the woods. Chapter 13, Disaster of Dongyin. One day later. Above a branch of a gargantuan tree, Yi Shiwen sat cross-legged, breathing a sigh of relief. The body's wounds were almost fine. The bright jade power's healing effect was unusually good. If on the earth with such an injury, it would take at least a few months to be fully well. But here, in merely one day, it had already been almost restored. Martial powers really are miraculous. During this day, he had hidden here and there. More and more of the Zhang family's men joined amongst the pursuing ranks. The Zhang family disciples tempered themselves in this region. Although they did not know Yi Shiwen's appearance, and each and every person who saw Yi Shiwen was killed by Yi Shiwen, this did not prevent them from pursuing Yi Shiwen. Those who formerly looked suspicious were all captured and killed by them. They would rather wrongly kill 3,000, not letting off one. Chasing for a day, having not the slightest meaning to stop. 2. Yi Shiwen slaughtered 2 Zhang family young masters. The Zhang family could not be furious. Moreover, as time went on, more and more experts appeared, more and more powerful. Must think of a way to get rid of them, or make their vitality severely damaged. Ho! Suddenly, continuous beast roars were heard, seeming like an ape or monkey's cry magnified by countless times. The number of the violent ape sounds reverberating wasn't known, resounding in the horizon. Yi Shiwen immediately stood up, leaping onto another large tree, rapidly flying over toward the place the sound was coming from. Far away, Yi Shiwen saw more than 100 gigantic apes. Only seeing that these gigantic apes' bodies were coated with silvery white hair, approximately more than 2 meters tall and with fierce facial fangs. Extremely ferocious. A troop of ironback silver apes. Ape-type demon beasts were not at all rare in the Qingfeng Mountains. There were many communities. Amongst these, the ironback silver ape was a famous one. Every one of these violent apes had super strength. Fully grown ironback silver apes could surpass the power of 4 tigers, no less than Hotian 5th stage warriors, able to tear up tigers and leopards. The body was strong and robust as if a steel bar. Swords and spears had difficulty entering. Inside the tremendous troop of silvery white apes, a golden ironback silver ape loftily stood above the treetops. Nearing 3 meters, compared to a giant silver ape it was much taller. This was an ironback ape king, imposing manner extremely frightful. According to humankind's classification method, it definitely outstripped the Hotian 8th stage, extraordinarily strong. More than 100 silverback apes. From the scale, it was already not small. Yi Shiwen suddenly had an idea using the coming Zhang family's men. The ironback silver ape was a kind of organism which unusually cared about its domain. Any organism attempting to approach their domain would be seen as a provocation. Then they would rip them apart. When the moment came, Yi Shiwen could fish in troubled waters to escape. Making up his mind, Yi Shiwen turned around, walking over towards the Zhang family groups. Inside the jungle, a group of Zhang family warriors carefully searched for passing traces of Yi Shiwen, trying to find anything. Now seniors have already commanded to must capture Yi Shiwen. To kill, rather wrongly killing to not let him slip by. Suddenly, on top of a tree, a shadow jumped down. Hong long long, a rumbling thunderstorm sound. A large hand shot down from overhead. Peng! Inside the group, a warrior met a violent death right away. This individual is the murderer who killed many of our Zhang family's men. Capture him. Immediately, a warrior recognized Yi Shiwen, crying out. Yi Shiwen killed one warrior then turned to run. The Zhang family warriors behind chased after at once. In between several jumps, Yi Shiwen submerged into the woods. Behind, the chasing Zhang family experts grew more and more. A grandiose dozens of people. Pursue, today we must catch the murderer. Kill him, cut him to pieces, he even dared to move our Zhang family's men. Kill, to avenge the young masters. Brat die to me. An exploding shout, that middle-aged man with scarred face joined the ranks to chase and kill Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen could sense the atmosphere of many formidable killing intents behind, immediately sneering. Come on, the more coming, the more he had an opportunity to fish in troubled waters. The pursuers behind were getting more and more close. At the same time, the ironback silver ape community's territory was also in sight. Yi Shiwen grabbed a large stone from the ground, throwing it toward the distant ironback silver apes. Immediately following, Yi Shiwen dived, fleeing into the thickets, crawling on the ground, concealing his whole atmosphere. Peng! That large stone directly knocked that ironback silver ape unconscious. Yi Shiwen's strength was large, calculated to 500 kilograms. The ironback silver ape body was as strong as iron. For an ordinary demon beast, this ferocious smash could make his head split open. Ho! 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 The troop of ironback silver apes were angry. Someone actually invaded their territory, attacking their community. One after another bellowing upwards, both hands beat the chest. The fierce air was monstrous. The troop of ironback silver apes were led by that ape king, rushing over toward Yi Shiwen's direction with unprecedented speed. These muscular big fellows' speed on the trees was extremely quick, arms hanging over branches, changing hands between, leaping several meters in distance. At this time, the Zhang family's men chasing to kill Yi Shiwen arrived, shouting to kill Yi Shiwen with ample murderous spirit. Both sides were caught somewhat unprepared. Inside the jungle, the line of sight would be obstructed, not to mention that both sides were sprinting extremely quickly as if two powerful currents fiercely hit each other. A Hotian 4th stage Zhang family warrior dashed ahead, directly getting hit flying by an ironback silver ape, knocked down and killed. These ironback silver ape ran at a high speed, appearing to be a typhoon of flesh tanks, supernaturally brave without rival. Fuck, how are there so many ironback silver apes here? That middle-aged man with a scarred face used a blade to hack an ironback silver ape into two halves, gloomily cursing. The ironback silver apes inside the Qingfeng Mountains were not an affable community. The Zhang family, although insolent, did not dare to negligently provoke such a community. Even when experienced, they would only choose a singled-out demon beast, and would not touch the whole community. What's more, ironback silver apes in itself were a powerful community. Both powerful currents ferociously hit each other. Immediately, inside the warrior group of the Zhang family, many were killed by the ironback silver apes, suffering a crushing defeat. However, the ironback silver apes also had many killed and beheaded by the warriors. Ho! The ironback silver ape king covered in golden hair bellowed, the howling shaking the sky, jumping down from the top of the trees. Hong! The direct pressure burst a Zhang family warrior, the shaking starting to sway the earth. Peng! A warrior's blade hacked down. To his surprise, the ironback silver ape caught it with bare hands. The fine steel long blade was directly molded into an iron sheet. That warrior was also punched dead by the ironback silver ape. This heavy shadow boxing, it actually brought out a shadow fist technique. Yi Shiwen was exceptionally stunned. This demon beast was actually able to use fist techniques. It ought to be the monkey fist. Chapter 14, Hotion's sixth stage. But it was also normal. Many of humankind's martial arts themselves were imitated by these beasts and demon beasts. Some tiger fist, monkey fist, snake fist, mantis fist, as so on. Only a look at the name and one would know it. This ironback silver ape king really was a fierce mess. Both sides had already been beaten into a rage. Before, they were unable to take the beating. The ironback silver ape's brute force was unequaled. However, the Zhang family's warriors also had respectively practiced all kinds of martial arts. Momentarily they loathed to part. That scar-faced middle-aged man was already facing the ironback silver ape king. Only just now, even more of the scar-faced middle-aged man's monstrous killing intent completely pressed the ironback silver ape king leeward. He was merely Hotion 7th stage, but this ironback silver ape king was already Hotion 8th stage, steadily pressing him. Yi Shiwen knew that these warriors' retreat in defeat was just in a matter of time. Yi Shiwen quietly left the battlefield, circling past, hurrying towards the den of the troop of ironback silver apes. Now the ironback silver ape's whole nest had come out, the time when the den was the most empty. Over so many years, the ironback silver ape troop surely accumulated many good things. These many years, extremely many human warriors had died by their hand. Ordinary demon beasts were not interested regarding the fallen things of humans, but ape-type demon beasts were different. Their wisdom was far higher than ordinary demon beasts, likely to gather these things. These were inside some various records Yi Shiwen had seen. Soon, Yi Shiwen had already touched the ironback silver ape troop's den. The troop of ironback silver apes' den was in the midst of a precipice. But time was running out. Perhaps before long, the ironback silver ape troop would be back. It was impossible for Yi Shiwen to search it one by one. He could only pick the single largest cavern. Of course, the ironback silver ape king's cavern. Inside the ironback silver apes, ranks were unusually strict. Advancing into the ironback silver ape's cavern, a wine fragrance first assaulted the senses, making humans intoxicated. Monkey wine. Yi Shiwen's mind gave off such a noun. Written in some travel notes, some monkey troops gathered a few fruits and such to ferment, then gradually form wine. It was the so-called monkey wine. Yi Shiwen's sight swept over, just seeing the inside of a hole, having an immense pond. Inside the pond was filled with jasper-colored wine. A wine fragrance assailed the nostrils. Solely breathing in a mouthful of the wine fragrance had the feeling of pores opening up. The wine fragrance contained concentrated spiritual qi within. This absolutely was not general monkey wine. It did not ferment the same fruit. Maybe this contained very many spirit fruits as well as some heavenly material treasures and so on. Yi Shiwen had no hesitation. This monkey wine was wholly fitted into the spatial ring. Immediate following, Yi Shiwen swept a glance at the entire cavern again. Although the cavern was very dark, Yi Shiwen's eyes were equipped with martial power. The fact was, it was bright as day. In the corner, a whole pile of low-grade spirit stones was piled there, emitting out spiritual qi, letting the cavern be just like living in a heavenly paradise. Looking, there were several thousand low-grade spirit stones at the very least. Yi Shiwen swept it away, entirely collecting it inside the spatial ring. Remaining were some weapons and armor and such. Many were already broken, a lot already passed through many years then rusted and rotted, having no value. These things could not be carried by Yi Shiwen. He only chose a long blade therein. Thick dust was attached to this long blade. It was unknown how many years it had experienced. However, it did not ever rot. The blade was suffused with a breathtaking cold tip. The whole body was made of pure gold, incomparably sharp. The reason for picking of this blade was very simply because the cold moon beheader blade technique was previously obtained. Now it just so happened that he had the long blade. Yi Shiwen strapped the long blade to his body, then promptly turned to leave, not daring to stay here for long. After rooting out the Ape King's entire cave dwelling in a punch, Yi Shiwen suddenly got rich. The original affair of 10 low-grade spirit stones was worrisome, but now he received several thousand in a short while, becoming a rich person all of a sudden. Yi Shiwen's face was brimming with an ecstatic expression. This truly was great. From inside Yi Shiwen's spatial ring, a bottle gourd of monkey wine was installed. Originally, it was used for holding water, now it was completely used for holding monkey wine. Drinking a mouthful, he immediately felt a warm flow leap up from the lower abdomen. Yi Shiwen was surprised to find that his strength was actually increased. Although it was less than a quarter of a kilogram, without a doubt, the monkey wine really had a strange efficacy. Inside contained an unknown amount of heavenly material treasures. It was no wonder that these ironback silver apes had strong and robust bodies, impervious to sword or spear. Yi Shiwen looked for the parted from Zhang family warriors and ironback silver apes. The place of the fight was not too far a place. In the distance he could see both sides fighting had entered a white-hot phase. Murderous spirit sword. Other demon beasts did not dare to approach this region. Yi Shiwen dug a hollow in a tree and began to go into seclusion. At this moment, a great amount of spirit stones started to ignite. Large quantities of spiritual qi surged into Yi Shiwen's body. Yi Shiwen closed his eyes, entering that mysterious space, simultaneously continuously drinking the monkey wine. Strength constantly rose up suddenly and sharply. The large quantities of spiritual qi formed a spiritual qi river, surging inside of Yi Shiwen's body. However, in a flash, it was hurriedly absorbed by Yi Shiwen. Inside that special space, Yi Shiwen cultivation's speed grew more and more fast. The cultivation also made breakthroughs in succession. Hotian initial 5th stage. Hotian mid 5th stage. Hotian late 5th stage. Hotian peak 5th stage. Following the domain level's continuous promotions, Yi Shiwen's strength also continuously promoted. The power of 6 tigers. The power of 7 tigers. The power of 8 tigers. The power of 9 tigers. The power of 10 tigers. Yi Shiwen's rate of promoting strength made one stare tongue-tied. The monkey wine alcohol was completely refined by Yi Shiwen. It was unknown how long had passed. Hong! Yi Shiwen broke through to the Hotian initial 6th stage. Yi Shiwen's strength broke through to no less than the power of 15 tigers. Yi Shiwen's rushing thunder hand had at last also been deduced to the 9th echo. After deducing it to the 9th echo, then rushing thunder hands might promoted one level again. Its might was complete. The cold moon beheader's first form, the Jnu moon beheader, had also been practiced a little. Yi Shiwen chopped out a blade, able to chop 6 knives. If one could chop 9 knives, like that, the first form, the Jnu moon beheader, was practiced to the culmination. As much as 500 low-grade spirit stones were cleanly combusted by Yi Shiwen, changing into a lump of fine white powder. That bottle gourd of monkey wine was also completely drank clean. Yi Shiwen opened his eyes, his whole body filthy from top to bottom. But compared to the previous several times, it was undoubtedly much less. This illustrated that his body's interior had less and less impurities. Yi Shiwen used Zhen Qi to entirely shake the impurities off. Yi Shiwen brandished out the long blade Qi warped and weft. The opposite large tree crashed down. Yi Shiwen exhaled. Even the beforehand Zhang family young master used it far inferiorly to his tyranny. Now, even if he was made to fight Hotian 7th-stage experts hand-to-hand, he was fearless. Chapter 15, School Inner Waiting. This time, the distant places fighting's victory and defeat had already been decided. The Zhang family warriors were only a handful of 5 people within the woods, competing for life and madly fleeing. Yi Shiwen, silhouette flashing, followed. Damn, how can it be like this, these bastards? With great difficulty, Zhang family participants' few people ran away from the Ironback Silver Ape's troops' death chase. The scar-faced middle-aged man's body was full of bloodstains. It was left behind when in the fight with the Ironback Silver Ape King. If not for a decisive withdrawal, perhaps they would have been completely wiped out. Go back, then let the family master mobilize experts to eliminate these beasts in one fell swoop. Otherwise, it's difficult for my heart's hate to vanish. a Zhang family warrior said, gnashing his teeth. Also that murderer, killing our two young masters, it is an outrage. This time's affair was also odd. How could those ironback silver apes be killing to obstruct us in our way? Another warrior said, not reconciled. When coming they had a grandiose dozen of people, but when fleeing only 5 or 6 people still remained alive. Kill, must kill, tear into shreds. The scar-faced middle-aged man displayed extreme anger. I'm afraid you have no chance. Only a clear and sonorous voice was passed on. All the Zhang family looked up, surprised to see a boy around 17 or 18 years old juvenile watching them with cold eyes. It was Yi Shiwen. It was you who murdered our young masters. The surviving 5 people in that previous group of people recognized Yi Shiwen. Our Zhang family will not let you get away. You won't have a chance to return afterwards. Yi Shiwen sneered. Brat, you court death? That scar-faced middle-aged man shouted, taking out a long blade, hacking towards Yi Shiwen. The blade light flickered, blade chi threatening. Although seriously injured, Hotian 7th-stage warrior were Hotian 7th-stage warriors in the end. Even if seriously injured, ordinary Hotian 6th-stage warriors would absolutely find this blade difficult to escape. But, unfortunately, Yi Shiwen was not some ordinary Hotian 6th-stage expert. Now, even if that scar-faced middle-aged man was in peak condition, he could fight the fight, let alone the now seriously injured condition. Chang! Yi Shiwen took out the long blade in a flash, pressing the cold tip to cover it from people's eyes. Yi Shiwen's blade hacked out, New Moon Beheader. Sharp blade chi split open the air, instantly chopping down. Hong! That scar-faced middle-aged man's blade chi defeated by Yi Shiwen's crescent moon blade chi, dashing straight down, power as if lightning. The rushing Thunder Hand's essence was actually mixed in. That scar-faced middle-aged man simply had not enough time to escape. That scar-faced middle-aged man only had enough time to look in horror at Yi Shiwen, yelling, "How is it possible?" The new blade light flashed. That scar-faced middle-aged man was directly hacked into 2 halves from the middle. Bright blood sprayed out. Evidently, this scar-faced middle-aged man had already recognized this move, but was too late to speak out. What? How could the deacon actually be killed? Didn't the deacon have Hotian 7th stage strength? Hardly a difference compared to some core disciples. How could he be beheaded by a blade? A very dreadful blade technique. That scar-faced middle-aged man was beheaded by a blade. Immediately, the Zhang family's barely remaining morale broke down. Originally, they had just recently come under utter defeat. Now even their most difficult to deal with scar-faced middle-aged man was beheaded by Yi Shiwen's blade. They were but Hotian 4th to 5th stage, they no longer had the frame of mind to resist. The remaining 4 shouted, dispersing in all directions to flee. But Yi Shiwen would absolutely not let them escape. The Zhang family was one of the Qingfeng Mountain's 2 great powers. These people have seen him. In the event that they were let to flee, perhaps he would truly have unceasing inconveniences. So much so that he would face the Zhang family's thunderous reprisal. Chang! Yi Shiwen raised the vertical body skill, a blade hacking out. Blade chi warped and weft, quick as lightning. In a split second, it hacked out 6 blades. One fleeing Zhang family warrior already had his head and body separated. Yi Shiwen practically did not have any stagnation, long blade in hand, sweeping out. The speed was still strangely extremely quick. With a trace of a thunderstorm sound, hacking into yet another warrior's body. Along with 2 warriors beheaded by Yi Shiwen, the remaining 2 warriors were also unable to escape, ultimately beheaded by Yi Shiwen. A mid-level martial arts might was boundless. Although, after the rushing Thunder Hand was to completion, it was completely no less than some mid-level martial arts. But for murder efficiency, Yi Shiwen have no choice but to admit that the New Moon Beheader was a little better. After beheading the final Zhang family remnants, Yi Shiwen at last relieved, not needing to face another of the Zhang family's death chase. Afterwards, even if the Zhang family wants to continue investigating, they must be able to go find talented people. They have to know who's for the job. The entanglement of the Zhang family was temporarily broken away from. Yi Shiwen also did not have the idea of returning. He still must continue to temper himself for half a month here, because half a month later was the time of the year's one school inner waiting. The school inner waiting was the school inner triennial grand event. Both disciples in the outer sect and disciples in inner sect participate. It was also divided into two parts, outer sect disciples and inner sect disciples. Outer sect disciples in the top 10 places could be promoted into inner sect disciples, but inner sect disciples in the waiting's top 5 places could promote to the core disciples. Within the Yiyuan school, outer sect disciples were just several thousand, inner sect disciples merely passed a little more than 1,000 and core disciples were only just over 100 people. If inner disciples were said to be the Yiyuan school's elites, in that case, the core disciples were seeds. The Yiyuan school developed and strengthened the seeds. Inside the Yiyuan school, the majority of seniors came from core disciples. To an exaggerated point, even if the outer sect disciples and inner sect disciples all died, so long as there were still core disciples, like that, it was not important. It could still develop rapidly. But if the core disciples lost half the people inside, in that way, the Yiyuan school's vigor would be greatly injured. The position of the core disciples was clear in the Yiyuan school. In the Yi family's 3 siblings, Yi Feng and Yi Ruxue were both already core disciples. Only Yi Shiwen still struggled within the inner disciples. Not everyone was able to promote to the core disciples. Although experts constantly promoted to the core disciples, an overwhelming majority of people still did not a chance. Because talents constantly sprung up, to seize that not at all often promotion to the core disciple position, sometimes not only paying attention to strength, but one must pay attention to luck. Until 25 years of age, if still unable to promote to the core disciples, in that case, one would either become a Yuan school steward, or either fend for themselves down the mountain. Once promoted to become a core disciple, then compared to the treatment before, it simply was a heaven and the earth turning upside down change. There were only over 100 core disciples, just they accounted for at least half of the Yiyuan school's resources. Chapter 16, Returning to the school. If he could have the core disciples' resources, Yi Shiwen's cultivation rate would only be even faster. Although it was impossible to make a large fortune for now, it naturally was a steady source of income. In the course of time, it was not a poor income. Let alone wanting to stand out in the core disciples, Yi Shiwen urgently needed all kinds of resources. He must not let it slip by bit. Those core disciples each were extraordinary innate talents, each had fortuitous encounters. If he did not step it up, it'll be a long time off to be able to overtake them. Yi Shiwen would not be willing to leave until they are all one by one dominated. In short, no matter how, this time school inner waiting was unusually important for him. He must go all out. To adjust to optimum condition, he must enter the core disciple rank in one go. As for core disciples not participating in the school inner waiting, after 3 months there will be an additional core waiting. The top 20 places could proceed toward the Yiyuan school head school, entering the head school to receive maximum cultivation. Regarding this time school inner waiting, Yi Shiwen was determined to win. Time passed day by day, slowly approaching the time of the school inner waiting. Inside the small jungle, together a man's shadow and a raging flame fox had a distant confrontation. It was surprising to find that raging flame fox's all over fiery-colored fur this time had blade scars up and down the body. Bright blood flowed. The originally pretty fur had everything broken and in disorder. Appearance somewhat dispirited, nothing the tyrannical strength of a Qin Feng Mountain's Hotian Peak 7th stage. New Moon Beheader. That person's shadow gave a loud shout, the long blade shining in hand. Blade Chi soared up, 9 blade shadows thus completely sealed the whole body of the Raging Flame Fox's room for maneuver. The Raging Flame Fox simply had no place to maneuver, only able to helplessly stare as the long knife fall to its body, beheaded in a moment. Yi Shiwen received the long blade, digging out the Raging Flame Fox's crystal core. A Hotian Peak 7th stage crystal core could absolutely reach 200 low-grade spirit stones or higher. I didn't accept that at the last moment. I actually broke through to the domain level of 9 blades. Yi Shiwen didn't expect that now he actually understood at the final moment, breaking through to the 9 blades domain level. The new moon beheader practiced to the culminations might sharply rose. A blade danced out, the 9 blade shadows were as if a shadow following the body, completely sealing off the whole body space. Close to a blade no matter where one escaped to. This was also why the raging flame fox that was widely known as deft could only be ultimately choked off, the reason that it was beheaded by Yi Shiwen. The raging flame fox, although strength only at Hotian Peak 7 stage, was known as the Qing Feng Mountain's hegemon. Naturally there was a reason that raging flame fox's speed was extremely quick. Ordinary Hotian Peak 8th stage warriors couldn't keep up with the raging flame fox's speed. Only Hotian 9th stage's utter experts had the ability to steadily overtake the raging flame fox. Ordinary Hotian 7th stage demon cores reached approximately 100 low-grade spirit stones, but the raging flame fox's demon core could reach 200. It was because it was very difficult to catch, very rare. Almost comparable to the price of Hotian 8th stage demon cores. If the raging flame fox escaped, Yi Shiwen absolutely wouldn't catch it. But in a face-to-face effort, Yi Shiwen displayed the new moon beheader. From start to finish, the widely known deft raging flame fox demon beast was unable to move a single step. Honestly suffering the blade. The culminated new moon beheader was absolutely dreadful. A blade danced out, up and down, and left and right, completely enveloped by blade shadows therein, entirely unable to escape. Relying on the culminated new moon beheader, Yi Shiwen had enough confidence to beat any Hotian 7th stage experts. In this time of less than half-month, Yi Shiwen mainly cultivated the new moon beheader, but due to having the special's assistance, he still pushed to the Hotian Peak 6th stage with ease, only the difference of a step to reach the Hotian 7th stage. Yi Shiwen was very clear on one point, that was biting off more than one could chew. Consequently, regardless of whether it was the rushing thunder hand or the new moon beheader, after practicing to the culmination one could begin cultivating others. Solely the culminated new moon beheader's might was already this formidable. Yi Shiwen very much looked forward to the following missing moon beheader's might. It went without saying that the missing moon beheader was one level higher than the new moon beheader, a high-level power technique. If practiced to the culmination, then the might would be hard to imagine. Although, in this less than half a month, Yi Shiwen unceasingly struck demon beasts dead, plundering demon cores. But, along with his cultivation promoting, his consumption grew more and more. Constituting the low-grade spirit stones, only approximately 2,000 low-grade spirit stones remained. Yi Shiwen figured, to practice the missing moon beheading to the culmination, these spirit stones number would seem to be somewhat stretched thin. Although 2,000 low-grade spirit stones, regarding an ordinary inner disciple, could not possibly be gained in a lifetime. But that special space inside his mind was a super machine practically swallowing the spirit stones. Yi Shiwen suddenly had a kind of feeling, no matter the number of spirit stones he had, it was not enough to swallow. Only, the benefit was clear and easy to see. If he could change from starting touching then rushing thunder 9 echoes, in about 1 month, to be able to issue out then rushing thunder hands, first echo, then it was considered to be very good. Must use spirit stones to switch domain levels. If he did not have the fortune of Zhang family young master and inside Ironback Silver Ape King's cavern, Yi Shiwen would already be unable to continuing supporting it. This was simply burning spirit stones. But it was almost time now. In 2 days, the triennial school inner waiting will begin. This time he must hurry to just appropriately return. Due to Yi Shiwen already coming a quite deep place in the Qing Feng Mountains, when setting off at early morning, Yi Shiwen will return to the Yuan school, then it would already be afternoon. Looking at the not distant disorderly buildings, Yi Shiwen was filled with emotion. He went out for a month from Hotian 4th stage at that time, cultivating to the now Hotian Peak 6th stage. If he told this news to his father and mother, they would be frightened. But at the moment, Yi Shiwen did not need to urgently return. First he must find a place for some of the spatial ring's demon beast material or deal with the demon beast cores and so on. Although inside the Yuan school there was a place to specially purchase, this was the Gongda Palace. Within the Gongda Palace were very many things not worthwhile to exchange. An initial demon core and peak demon core in the Gongda Palace over there were the same in exchange, but if privately sold to other disciples, then the price was completely different. Within the Yuan school were no shortage of such places. Within the Yuan school, there was a kind of huge plaza, specialized to have private transactions with those disciples. The school sect didn't prohibit it. In fact, the entire school had no less than 6,000 people of the Yuan school. It looked like a small town, bustling with unusual noise and excitement. This kind of commercial gathering point would sooner or later form. It might as well be centralized to a point. Firstly, it was convenient for disciple transactions. Secondly, it was convenient for school sects to supervise. Thirdly, the safety factor would also be much higher. Yi Shiwen first rushed to the transaction plaza. This time of afternoon was when the people was at its most. The human tide surged. Chapter 17, Conflict. These materials, including blasting bear claw, fur of raging flame fox, amounts to a total 200 low-grade spirit stones, said the owner of a small store who looked like a skinny old man. The old man had been opening his shop here for over 50 years, but no one knew when exactly he started to purchase these demon beast materials. Yi Shiwen asked Yi Kongming, but even he didn't know. He said this old man had existed from ancient times and none of the disciples dared to cause trouble around him, and he would always give fair prices without any deceit. Do you have any objection to the price? No. Yi Shiwen shook his head, saying the price was reasonable. Even if sold at other places, the price might not necessarily be so high. Of course, the real bulk was not here, but in those demon cores. These demon cores contain the true essence of a demon beast's body. The number of demon cores in his possession altogether could sell for at least 800 spirit stones, and since he already had 1,000 low-grade spirit stones, in total amounted to about 2,000 low-grade spirit stones. These are demon beast body parts. You should have a lot of demon cores. That skinny old man looked at Yi Shiwen and said, if there are any, you can sell them to me as well. My offer price will not let you suffer a loss. Yi Shiwen also thought that it would save him a lot of trouble, so he took out all of the demon cores from the spatial ring and placed them on the table. That skinny old man looked a bit surprised because Yi Shiwen actually took out so many demon cores. Even if it was a core disciple, it would be impossible for them to take out so many demon cores at once. For these demon cores, I fix a price of 850 low-grade spirit stones. Is it okay? The old man looked at Yi Shiwen, then asked. Very well, thank you. Yi Shiwen nodded in satisfaction, as it was even more than he had anticipated. After receiving the spirit stones, Yi Shiwen went out of the store, and while he was somewhat far away from the shop, suddenly he heard the voices of people quarreling. Nonsense, I didn't see your celestial steps, said a voice somewhat anxiously. Humph, if you didn't see, then how do you that this secret book is called Celestial Steps? If everyone is like you, who takes a look and does not buy, then how will I do my business like this? A rough voice came from the crowd today. You will have to buy this Celestial Steps secret book. You don't have an option, and if you don't buy, and since you have already seen the book, then you must pay money, which will be 500 low-grade spirit stones. The crowd was in uproar. 500 low-grade spirit stones was a huge amount, which was impossible for many disciples to obtain in their whole life. Yi Shiwen entered the crowd and saw a quarrel between two young men. One was fat and other seemed strong, and the fat youth was surprisingly his childhood friend Wang Lai. Wang Lai clenched his teeth, releasing his power to the limit, assuming a stance of going all out. Shwa! Bang! Suddenly a shrill piercing sound came from the crowd. A small stone like a lightning flash flew instantly across the air, and it directly and fiercely hit Ma Yan's fist. Ma Yan suddenly squealed like a dying pig. Chapter 18, Blood Yuan Domain. Who dares to attack me? Ma Yan said while screaming. Yi Shiwen's figure was not hidden in the crowd. Wang Lai quickly spotted him and happily ran to him and said, Brat, you are finally back. Where had you gone for a month? I went to the back side of the mountain to cultivate and practice martial arts. Yi Shiwen said. Hey, Why can't I see your cultivation? Wang Lai said and looked curiously because he and Yi Shiwen both were similar considering their natural talents. In fact, he had always been stronger than Yi Shiwen since their childhood, but this time when he saw his good friend, he couldn't see through his cultivation. He couldn't see through Yi Shiwen's cultivation, but Yi Shiwen easily saw through his cultivation. Thankfully, Wang Lai's retreat was a success as he had broken through to the 4th stage, and with just one swoop he jumped into the middle of inner sect disciples. Wait, what's going on? Why was he blackmailing you just now? Yi Shiwen stared coldly at Ma Yan and said, I broke through to the 4th stage and wanted to buy a secret book here, but who knew I would be blackmailed by him to buy this damaged book for 500 low-grade spirit stones? Wang Lai's fat face was filled with anger and he said, I didn't buy it, so he falsely accused me of reading this book? If it was a Xian power technique, forget 500 low-grade spirit stones, even an amount of 50,000 low-grade spirit stones would be inexpensive, but it was obvious that the technique must not be incomplete or it can't even get a price of 500 low-grade spirit stones. Such a situation was very common, because not everyone could obtain a secret book, but most of these were incomplete and not that valuable. This was the reason why it was unacceptable that someone was willing to sell a complete Xiantial power technique for just 500 low-grade spirit stones. Die, how dare you sneak attack on me, you bastard! Ma Yan looked ferocious, his hands still aching and his eyes flashed with killing intent. With a step, he leaped high and jumped towards Yi Shiwen and his fist blasted into a powerful punch. Bang! How could Yi Shiwen not prevent this surprise attack? He immediately spread out his palm and caught his fist. Rumble! Yi Shiwen grabbed Ma Yan's fist, producing a rumbling sound, and twisted it. Kara! Ma Yan screamed like a dying pig. Yi Shiwen directly folded his wrist. Since his power was now over 19 Tiger Force, there was no way he could possibly withstand the strength in Yi Shiwen's grip with power of just 4 tigers. The difference was too great. Take this! Yi Shiwen shouted and lifted his foot to kick him. Bang! Ma Yan suffered this kick so suddenly and fiercely that his body flew magnificently like a broken kite, flew high up then fiercely fell to the ground. Suddenly foam started to come out of his mouth and he fell unconscious. People started staring at Yi Shiwen as if looking at an incredible existence. Ma Yan was supposed to be one of the top 20 disciples from Inner Sect, but now no one knew if Ma Yan was alive or dead after getting kicked so ruthlessly by Yi Shiwen and was still unconscious. Who on earth was this person? Because Yi Shiwen always had a low profile as his strength was never this strong, therefore no one present there really knew who he was. Everyone around was wondering from where did such a ruthless man emerge to actually send Ma Yan into comatose-like state. This was a man who was supposed to be at the peak of 5th stage. Only a monster could defeat such a man this easily. Of course, since Ma Yan was a notorious one, so most people secretly applauded. Yi Shiwen found a book on Ma Yan's body, Celestial Step. He couldn't look properly as surrounded by a large crowd. He did not use his spatial ring or it might cause some jealousy, which was not good. Come, let's go. Yi Shiwen turned to Wang Lai and said. They soon left the market. Wang Lai couldn't wait and asked, how did you become so powerful? Gee, that Ma Yan, your kick actually sent him flying. Hey, I was originally this powerful. Yi Shiwen said then laughed. He certainly would not talk about the mysterious space. Bah, I was just kidding. 2 friends kept on walking while fooling around all the way. They returned to their respective homes. Yi Shiwen hadn't come back for a while and at the same time, Yi Kongming also came back home from outside and saw him. On his face appeared a little smile and he said, Welcome back. Regarding why Yi Shiwen had not come back home for a home, he didn't say anything because martial artists were such existences. He might travel for months or even for several years or even more than 10 years and it still wouldn't be surprising. And Yi Shiwen had already told them before he left. Good, you look stronger. Yi Kongming nodded approvingly and said. He had always devoted a lot of his attention to this adopted son. You look thinner and weak. Are you not eating properly? Parental concerns for their children could be very different for a mother and father. You have come back at a perfect timing. Participate in the school inner waiting which is going to start in 2 days. Yi Kongming said, In this grand event, our school is offering a very generous award and top 100 rankers can earn a lot of rewards. Yes, father. Yi Shiwen nodded. Of course he had come back to participate in this school inner waiting, but not the way his father had hoped, because instead of top 100 ranks, he was planning to at least get into the top 5. Why did the ancestor call you? Mother Xiaochuan Xue asked Yi Kongming. Zhang family wants to conduct this year's core disciples exam together with our school. Yi Kongming said, Zhang family has proposed to conduct this year's big competition of core disciples in the Blood Yuan territory. What? Blood Yuan territory? Xiaochuan Xue was surprised. Yi Shiwen also gawked. He certainly knew what Blue Yuan territory was. In this world, in addition to Zhen Wujie, there also existed some large and small-dimensional spaces. These spaces naturally formed in this world. Some were big in size, far more than thousands of miles, and some were small with just a few miles only. After many years of breeding, these small dimensions gave birth to life and reproduced their own life forms and animal breeds. A Blood Yuan territory was such a small microcosm with all kinds of unusual animals, innumerable spirit grass. The entrance to this small dimension was in Qingfeng Mountain, and the key to open this entrance rested in the hands of Yiyuan School's elder and Zhang family's patriarch. Legend was that Zhang family's ancestor and Yiyuan School's founder together found this entrance many years ago and they benefited a lot from it. In the end, one of them created a school and the other created the foundation of powerful Zhang family. A Blood Yuan territory would open every once in a while, but it couldn't remain open, and the reason for that was in consideration to the fact that it was very small, hence the self-healing capacity would be weak. So it needed to be closed for a period of time to open up later. This could be called sustainable developments. Chapter 19, Competition starts in Blood Yuan territory. Lived a variety of unusual beasts, birds, countless treasures. However, the risk factors were high. Even Xiantian level experts had fallen to this place. Every time the dimension had opened, Yiyuan School elder and master of Zhang family together ventured into this place, but in the past disciples had never been dispatched because the time interval was too long. A full decade, and also the strength of the disciples was relatively poor, so their safety couldn't be guaranteed. Blood Yuan territory. Yi Kongming frowned and said, it will open up this year exactly at the same time when Blood Yuan fruit matures, and Zhang family has proposed to organize this year's core disciples competition together, and the top 3 will receive Blood Yuan fruit as reward. Blood Yuan fruit was a spiritual fruit and was also the specialty of Blood Yuan territory. The tree it grew on was located deep into the territory, and this spirit fruit was the reason why the dimension was named Blood Yuan territory. When someone consumed this spiritual fruit, even Xiantian level experts would be able to reach the next stage of their cultivation. Of course, this spiritual fruit was very scarce and it only matured once in 100 years. They could get this fruit only once after having opened the Blood Yuan territory for 10 times. Moreover, the quantity was also scarce, only 9. The winning side will receive 4 of the remaining 6 Blood Yuan fruit, while the losing side will receive just 2 Blood Yuan fruits. Yiming said. This was nothing, as in the past they had such a competition and the winning party got more rewards, while the losing party got less. I have heard that in recent years, Zhang family has produced 3 very powerful geniuses. They are very young but have already acquired the strength of 9th stage. Xiaochuan Xue suddenly mentioned this. You are right, Zhang family clearly just wants to monopolize the top 3 ranks. Yi Kongming sneered. But things won't go as they have expected. Just now Feng'er is undergoing closed-door training, and when he comes out, he will be able to break through to the 9th stage, then he can compete for the Blood Yuan fruit. In the end, who is going to win is hard to say. Yi Shiwen knew that this time Zhang family had evil intentions, but apparently Yuan school elders also had their own plans, so he was not very worried. I am not worried about Blood Yuan fruit, but that Blood Yuan territory, after all, is too dangerous. What if you come across a terrifying demon beast in the Blood Yuan territory? Xiaochuan Xue, with a few points of concern on her face, said, don't let Yi Feng and Yi Ruxue participate this time. Anyway, Feng'er has already acquired the peak of 8th stage, and he is only 1 step away from breaking through to the 9th stage. and then he would be able to enter into the main sect of Yuan school. Is that not good enough? Feng is an outstanding leader of the Yuan school's core disciples, so he will have to participate. And as long as they carefully fight together against the demon beasts, nothing will happen. Yi Kongming said with confidence, "Yi child, you quickly go back and take rest. Your physical state should be adjusted to the best condition to give your best in the inner disciples competition." "Yes, father," Yi Shiwen said. Yi Shiwen returned back to his small courtyard, but he did not do anything else. He took out that book he picked up from Ma Yan's body, the Celestial Step. This was the secret book that Ma Yan used to blackmail many people. Yi Shiwen looked at the Celestial Step and then realized that this Celestial Step was a Xian level power technique. However, it was incomplete with only half of the content still intact. Of course, he couldn't practice it to the peak level, but the power was also no less than a general higher power technique, and as for Yi Shiwen, it was like prolonged draft to meet the sweet dew. He lacked an agility-type maneuver technique, although both Rushing Thunder Hand and Cold Moon Beheader contained agility, but these were no doubt inferior to Celestial Step as agility was its specialty. Yi Shiwen had thought that after the competition was over he would go over to the library to get an agility-type technique, but now he didn't need to bother about that. Celestial Step was indeed an incomplete technique, but for the current Yi Shiwen, it was perfectly adequate, and in the future if he ever got a chance, he would completely perfect this technique. According to the above description, Celestial Step was excellent for small-ranged maneuvers. When organizing maneuvers in a small scope, it was extremely handy. Yi Shiwen put down the idea of first practicing Missing Moon Beheader, because anyway his new Moon Beheader was more than sufficient to participate in the school inner weighting, as it was rare for the disciples to perfectly master even a primary power technique, let alone an intermediate power technique was out of question. Now firstly, practicing the Celestial Step was important. Yi Shiwen closed his eyes, entering the mysterious space, and started practicing as described in the secret book of Celestial Step. It began to burn up a lot of spirit stones, and the newly formed spiritual chi entered into his body. Then his understanding of the Celestial Step also started to rise up dramatically. Yi Shiwen constantly practiced maneuvering skills in the mysterious space. His moving shadow initially looked slow and rusty, but it quickly became proficient and skilled. Time passed, 2 days gone in a flash. In his small courtyard, with his hands behind his back, he took a step forward, but instead he trotted several steps instantly and his figure appeared in the corner far away. A smile appeared on his face because in just 2 days, he had already reached the 3rd level of Celestial Step. The technique was divided into the first glimpse into the channel, entering the inner chamber, Shao Cheng, and culmination. Although there were only 4 levels, but there was a huge difference between each of the levels, and a practice to reach the 3rd level should have taken a long time, not to mention this was an advanced martial arts technique. But for Yi Shiwen, it was not the same, as he had that mysterious space to help him practice, where practicing for 1 day was equivalent to 100 days practice for others or even more, and of course, the price that had to be paid was crazy consumption of spirit stones. In just 2 days, in order to master the 3rd level of Celestial Step, 1,500 low-grade spirit stones had already been consumed out of 2,000 low-grade spirit stones he originally had. The remaining 500 were simply not enough to reach the final level of Celestial Step, which required at least 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. However, at this time, there was no time to practice the final level of Celestial Step, because school inner weighting had finally begun. The sunlight broke through the clouds to shine on earth. The Qinfeng Mountain welcomed a new day. On the mountain, up and down, everywhere was like a beaming picture. On Qingfeng Mountain, Yuan School had more than 10,000 people waiting for the competition to begin, where only 1,000 people would actually participate in the school inner weighting, because not everyone would be able to participate, as some people lacked the strength, so participating could be fatal. Only those interested in seizing a certain ranking or to test their levels would participate. This competition was not mandatory, so only interested disciples were participating. Among them, the outer sect disciples who had registered were as many as 800, and the inner sect disciples were only 400 in numbers. However, these numbers were more than what used to be in the past, as competition this time was particularly fierce, and the reason was quite simple. In the past, only the top 50 received a reward, but this time it was increased to 100, which means top 100 would receive rich rewards. This was done just to attract more inner and outer sect disciples to participate. Chapter 20. A brief appearance. Yi Shiwen and Wang Lai both rushed to the competition venue. Wang Lai with some excitement said, "Man, this time you have to get a good rank." Wang Lai did not participate this time. To get into top 100 ranks, at least one should be at the 4th stage, but he just had a breakthrough recently. He knew very well that he didn't have a chance this time. In fact, he had never been that ambitious. Yi Shiwen nodded. "But you have to be careful. I heard the news that Ma Ying is planning to deal with you." Wang Lai said seriously, "Ma Ying has put the word out encouraging others to cripple you as a revenge for his younger brother." "Cripple me? Let's see if he has the skill," Yi Shiwen said with a sneer. Venue was packed with crowd. Yi Shiwen arrived on the scene first and took out the serial number 127 for himself. There were 2 numbers of same serial number. The first opponent would be the one who drew out the same serial number. Once the time arrived, key figures within the Yuan school arrived successively. They were using the technique flying high false step to fly above the high platform. In the eyes of all the disciples flashed a look of envy, although flying high false step was not an actual flight, but it was not something they could easily attain. Everyone suppressed their breaths to this performance. They were Yuan school seniors and the true backbone that supported the school. Yuan clan people and Zhang clan were already the most powerful parallel forces of the Qingfeng mountain and nearby region, and if their performance was good, they could receive a reward from some elder that would lead to a meteoric rise. This had happened in the past. Yi Shiwen in those elders saw his father Yi Kongming's figure. Among the group of elders, it did not seem conspicuous. The venue occupied a very wide land area. 200 platforms were placed for the contest. Wang Lai and Yi Shiwen both went to the number 127 arena. "You are number 127, rings other contestant." Yi Shiwen just saw a big and tall disciple who walked over to him laughing and said, "You really have a bad luck, unexpectedly have bumped into Shi Feng brother. Just admit defeat." Shi Feng brother has acquired the peak of 5th stage. Even if to get into the top 50 ranks, he is definitely capable, that tall disciple continued. If you do not hurry up and admit defeat now, when the time comes, it will be difficult to give up before losing some of your body parts. Wang Lai's complexion also changed. "I did not expect it would actually be Shi Feng. Ah man, it's too bad that your first opponent turned out to be that Shi Feng. His methods are very malicious and ruthless." 3 years ago in the competition, there were several disciples who admitted defeat. Their bones were broken, causing 6 months' worth of injuries. "Quite a bully," Yi Shiwen said. "Bully, ha ha ha, for a long time no one has called me a bully." Suddenly a burst of laughter spread in the arena. "You don't have a good luck, I suppose, as someone has asked me to break your legs." Yi Shiwen looked up. There he saw a tall tower-like young man, with a fiendishly grinning face looking at Yi Shiwen. It was Shi Feng. "Boy, do you dare to come up now?" Shi Feng grinned. "So long as you kowtow 100 times, I'll let you off." "That depends on you." Yi Shiwen sneered and jumped on. "Now that you have received benefits from others to break my legs, I'll make you bear the consequences for your sins. Young boy, you really dare to come up, a move, with just 1 hit I will beat you." Shi Feng laughed loudly. 127 The arena fight. Begin. The referee saw both of them standing and ready, then opened his mouth and spoke. As for the 2 previous dialogues, he turned a deaf ear, as if he did not hear anything. As referee's voice just fell, Shi Feng shot out like a shell from the catapult. Although tall, but his speed was incredibly fast, he rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Although this person was insolent, but his strength was the real deal. Although his agility was not on a high level, but the explosive force was great. In a blink of an eye he had rushed to the front of Yi Shiwen. Shi Feng grinned fiendishly and opened his big hand to directly twist Yi Shiwen's head. "Elders Yi, is that your son fighting on the 127th platform?" said the elder sitting close to Yi Kongming. "It is my son." Yi Kongming smiled and nodded. "I recall more than a decade ago Elder Yi was embracing him when he returned. I just saw him once, But in a blink of an eye, more than a decade has passed, he is already this big now. The elder said with emotion. His opponent can be a tough one. The elder, while staring at the ring, said, "Inborn natural power, he is more formidable than an average person. It doesn't matter, this will allow him to gain experience." Yi Kongming smiled as if he didn't care, but the eyes were tightly locked in the ring, somewhat worried. Bang! Yi Shiwen stuck his palm out. It hit fiercely right on Shi Feng's big hand. The two sides directly caused a collision, making a sound of huge air explosion. Yi Shiwen stood there calm and motionless. Shi Feng had an inborn natural power, although he had just acquired the peak of 5th stage, but the strength in his hand was absolutely over the 6th stage, comparable to the masters of 6th stage, but he still could not move Yi Shiwen even the slightest. Impossible! Shi Feng's one pair of cow-like eyes was full of surprise looking at Yi Shiwen. Unbelievably, even if it was a 6th stage master, his strength was not one bit inferior, but unexpectedly Yi Shiwen didn't budge. Boom! Accompanied with a burst of thunderstorm sound, Yi Shiwen's palm shot out a group of torpedo-shaped chi, with a lightning speed, enormous and mighty, a palm pressed against Shi Feng's chest. Bang! Shi Feng's tower-like body was flown up when shot by Yi Shiwen's palm. His blood sprayed all over, bones in his body were broken in half, and he fell directly off the stage. What? How is this possible? The audience was in uproar. All the people paying attention to this battle could not believe their eyes. They had been very optimistic about this Shi Feng, but he couldn't even stop Yi Shiwen's one move, was actually sent flying out of the arena. No one knew whether he was alive or dead. Cheating, he must be cheating. Several disciples who were close to Shi Feng suddenly found it difficult to accept, started yelling and said, "He has definitely plotted against Shi Feng, brother. Made a brief appearance and sent Shi Feng flying. How is this possible?" "Shut up," the referee said in a cold voice. Who was right or wrong, he saw very clearly, did not need those juniors to teach him what to do. This competition, Yi Shiwen wins. Now he will enter the second round. Idiots! Yi Shiwen glanced at those disciples. Shi Feng, however, was just a small pawn. Presumably, Ming was the one behind, but there was no rush. Ming was popular. To win the championship, sooner or later, they would meet for sure. Good. Unexpectedly, I was totally wrong. The elder sitting close to Yi Kongming said with a smile. Chapter 21. In one move, seems like he is practicing well. Yi Kongming seemed serious in speech and manner, but smiles spilled on his face from time to time because he was in a good mood. He had thought, with Yi Shiwen's current cultivation, if he could just pass through the first round, it would be very good, but he had not expected that he could so easily break through the first round, so naturally the second round would unlikely pose any problem. He might even break into the third round, or into the top 100. Naturally, he was in a good mood. After the first round was over, Yi Shiwen did not have to wait too long for the second round. His second opponent was a boy of same age as him. He was wearing a Chinese robe, and his face was filled with pride. "Wang Shaoqi," Yi Shiwen said. The boy looked lightly at Yi Shiwen and said, "You might as well surrender as early as possible, so as to avoid the time of suffering." At this time the disciples were talking amongst themselves. Someone recognized this boy's origins. It's actually Wang Shaoqi. He practices Tiger Cannon Fist, which is a high-level martial arts, very powerful. Last time he was just an inner sect disciple, but relying on the power of Tiger Cannon Fist, he beat a lot of senior-level disciples and made them flee ignominiously. He almost squeezed into the top 100, and then he was received by an elder as his own personal apprentice. He is said to have already acquired the peak of 5th stage, and those who have acquired 6th stage also may not be his opponent. Really, no wonder he is so proud, but this Yi Shiwen is also far from simple. Just now that Shi Feng couldn't block his one move, with one hit he fell unconscious, alive or dead we don't know. It seems like it may end up in a fierce competition between two evenly matched opponents. Wang Shaoqi seemed to have heard the commentary going on in the crowd of disciples. He immediately sneered and said, "You think just because you defeated Shi Feng you can be my match? I'm not a barbarian like Shi Feng. He has brute force but doesn't know how to use it and is also an idiot." "Cut the crap," Yi Shiwen said indifferently. See if I don't show you some power, Wang Xiaoqi shouted loudly. Behind him appeared a huge amount of energy, the mighty and fierce spiritual qi scattered in all directions instantly. It seemed as if a fierce tiger was descending from the mountain. This was the tiger cannon fist, practiced to the most profound realm, and the surrounding air had condensed into a head of tiger. Bang! Wang Xiaoqi took a step, his figure suddenly disappeared, and the very next moment it appeared right in front of Yi Shiwen. Then his fist exploded into a punch, roaring tiger in the mountain forest. The moment seemed as if a fierce tiger was roaring in a mountain forest. Wang Xiaoqi had turned into a tiger, enveloped in evil power. An elder watching from the elder seats looked at Wang Xiaoqi with a smiling face. He was the master of Wang Xiaoqi, Hu Changlao. Just then a nearby elder laughed and said, "Last time, Wang Xiaoqi almost broke into the top 100, setting a record. This tiger cannon fist, compared to 3 years ago, must have advanced by leaps and bounds. This time he can at least break into the top 20. Wang Xiaoqi's age is too small, duration and degree of cultivation is also very different. This will let him experience and gain insights from the superior disciples of this province. He still does not know the immensity of the universe," said Elder Hu Changlao quite seriously, but his face couldn't conceal the happy expression and contentment. However, this person is not an opponent for cheer. Suddenly, one of the disciples exclaimed. They actually saw that with just a step, Yi Shiwen's whole figure suddenly disappeared in front of Wang Xiaoqi. It was precisely the celestial steps. Wang Xiaoqi's whole body passed through the location where Yi Shiwen was earlier, only then he realized that something was wrong. Not good. Wang Xiaoqi finally recovered his self-confidence and felt the problem. Too late. Yi Shiwen appeared behind Wang Xiaoqi and slapped on Wang Xiaoqi's body. Bang! Wang Xiaoqi didn't even get a chance to react. He was directly slapped out of the ring by Yi Shiwen, but he did not seriously injure him. Wang Xiaoqi was sent out flying with just one hit. He still could not believe that he did not block even one move from Yi Shiwen. A moment later, Wang Xiaoqi smiled bitterly while cupping one hand over the other across the chest. He said to Yi Shiwen, "Yi brother, many thanks for showing mercy. In the past I was really ignorant and narrow-minded. It unexpectedly is very ridiculous." Wang Xiaoqi turned and left. His figure seemed a bit lonely. What? How is this possible? How could that Yi Shiwen be so powerful? Even Wang Xiaoqi was not his match. He unexpectedly flew out of the ring in one move. It's really incredible. The outcome of this fight caused a lot of disturbance. A lot of people had not expected that Yi Shiwen could actually defeat Wang Xiaoqi so easily, without even fighting as they had imagined. Wang Xiaoqi was considered a genius among the inner sect disciples. 3 years ago he had entered the inner sect for the first time, then he had almost broken into the top 100. This time his goal was to break into first 20 ranks, or even 10, then he would become a popular candidate to be counted in the top future core disciples. He had encountered many adventures, and was also received as a disciple by an elder, but such a formidable genius had actually lost to Yi Shiwen, moreover was defeated in one move. It was simply hard to imagine. That Hu Changlao was suppressed with shame very much like a pig's liver, although a moment ago what he said was very modest, but everyone could see that he was satisfied, but his voice just fell. Wang Xiaoqi was defeated by Yi Shiwen in just one move. This was equivalent to being severely thrown a slap in the face. Congratulations, Elder Yi. This son of yours really has stolen all the limelight. He broke through the second round in such a relaxed manner. Ha. I am afraid the top 10 ranks are not a problem anymore. Yes, all 3 children from Elder Ye's house are outstanding. From the elder seats on one side spread a burst of congratulatory voice, leaving Elder Hu with an ugly face. Yi Kongming simply could not speak. That his son was different, he was actually very humble. In his heart, he was very satisfied with Yi Shiwen's performance. He unexpectedly had disappeared and a month later, but his progress was actually so great that even that famous genius Wang Xiaoqi from 3 years ago was defeated in one move. But unexpectedly in his heart, he also had some expectations as to which path his youngest son would take. Humful. Hu Changlao's face looked ugly. He coldly uttered a sigh. He was just opportunistic. He relied on a good agility technique. he will fail eventually. Even getting into top 30 rankings is impossible for him. Elder seats were suddenly bustling up with noise. This Yi Shiwen is amazing. In the past, unexpectedly no one actually knew about him. No one thought, seeing his outer appearance, that he possessed this much strength, and also we do not know at what time he will be forced out. Yes, you saw, he was also carrying a long blade behind him, but there is no evidence that blade was used. Gee, extraordinary. Also many elders and a friend of Hu Changlao said. The third son from Elder Ye's house, who does not know that his power was mediocre, but it suddenly progressed by leaps and bounds. He certainly has swallowed some kind of material treasure, which promotes the progressing speed of the cultivation, but this realm is very unstable. If encountered a real master, he will collapse at the first blow. Spiritual cultivation slowly grows along the way, but this is an acquired realm. To rely on a material treasure to qualify, in the future his achievements will stop. The elders were talking about in succession, however high above the platform had its own enchantment, and the people underneath were not aware as to what the elders were talking about. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.